Well, happy Saturday and welcome again to the Splatoon 3 Splatsville Showdown event number 2. I'm your Spray by Spray host, Jordan Kent, and joining me once again, two of the top Splatalists in all of the Splatlands, we have our good friend Nine, and joining us for the first time, Nox. Welcome to the party, and let's start with you, Nox. What are you most looking forward to as we try to see 4 teams face off for the final 2 spots in a potential North American Championship?
I'm really excited to see what Sayonara manages to do today. Not Sayonara, sorry. What Last Resort manages to do today. They've been running a really interesting double Splatana comp, and taking advantage of that will be very interesting, especially against all of these crabs with so much object damage going on.
And Nine, we get to this point, this high-level competitive play. We have a lot of conversations, and really what we're seeing is that these comps that teams are coming up with are serving multiple purposes. But as we heard from Nox, that it isn't just the same layout. You're going to see a little bit of diversity here when we get to these matches pretty soon.
Yeah, a little bit of diversity, and Nox pointed it out well. It's Crab's world, and we're all simply living in it right now, but that does mean that when you have kind of a big bad villain, if you will, everything sort of is based on that, and the way that these teams try to attack that is not only something that they do on the weapon select screen, but it's in the moment decisions as well. And this was a stacked top 16 simply to get to this top 4. So all these teams have already proven they have those answers. It's simply a matter of putting the pieces together.
All right, let's go ahead and check out the bracket and see which 4 squads will be facing off. And you've got Crush Soda versus Sayonara, and then Ascension versus Last Resort. As we heard from Nox about Last Resort, keep an eye on that double wiper combination that we're going to see there. But when you look at Crush Soda here, Nine, I know you like to have a nice tall glass as you're working on some short ribs in the background there. What do you like about this opening matchup between these two teams, Nine?
Well, this is the Blue Bloods versus the next generation here. Crush Soda features Kyo. Yes, it is that Kyo. There's not too many people with the name. And a host of incredibly mechanically skilled, gifted youngsters. Goss, Thunder, and Wave. They're going to pull out some plays that you wouldn't believe, but they have the demons of Sayonara to go through there. This is a team that really has only lost to Starburst, the team that most people would consider to be the top team in North America right now. I would argue that Sayonara, even with this slightly new roster, anything short of a ticket punch to the next event will be a major disappointment for them.
All right, let's go ahead and check out what these two teams are going to be going head-to-head for as we look at some of the prizes. A round trip to Boston, a Splatoon 3 Splatsville Showdown trophy, 10,000 My Nintendo Gold points, a Splatoon 3 jacket, Splatoon 3 backpack, a Splatoon 3 pin set, and Splatoon 3 tech decals. And we're going to go through 2 sets of semifinals. 2 teams will go on, but let's go ahead and check out the rules for today as we get set for the semifinals in just a short moment. Our top 4 round. The higher seed will choose the mode, the lower seed will choose the stage, and after the first game, the losing team will choose the stage, with the winning team choosing the mode. There are your 4 game modes, very familiar with them: Clam Blitz, Splat Zone, Tower Control, Rainmaker, and a mode cannot be chosen more than 2 times during the match. Keep that in mind. And our maps, you know them, you love them: Flounder Heights, Brinewater Springs, Eeltail Alley, Inkblot Art Academy, and Scorch Gorge. And Nox, Crab is going to be at the center. We've got to talk about this giant crustacean in the room here. Teams that are going to be working with or against Crab, is it the idea that we've got to out-crab you, or are you going to try and find a counter strategy to maybe think of a different way around the other opponent's tendency to rely on such a powerful special?
I mean, there's definitely a decent bit of out-crabbing going on, but at this level of play, we are seeing that you have to think about running things like Object Shredder on your crab, and running things like Splatana Stampers to just shred through the crab. You aren't just focusing on running more crabs than the other team. You're focusing on how can I mitigate what their crab can do and ensure that our crab can come out on top and ensure that our players can get in because of it.
And Nine, looking at a lot of these comps here, the map's going to make a huge difference as far as which teams are going to do well, because when you get to some of these more open-ended maps with more space to navigate, that's going to completely change some of these faster, shorter-ranged weapon comps that teams are maybe going to rely on heavily.
Absolutely, and you don't even have to look any further back than the last Splatsville Showdown, an incredible set that we got to commentate between Starburst and Ascension. Ascension is back in this event as well, as you noted earlier. there was a tale of really two different types of map. On the shorter, scrappier maps, Ascension was beating Starburst, and quite handily, I might add. And the moment it went to the more open maps, the double crab and the double missile composition of the Flings-a-Roller from Starburst completely changed the dynamic of it without even drastically changing the comp. So these teams do have some answers for every situation.
So Nox, we just got our first matchup. It's going to be Splat Zones, Brinewater Springs. When you look at this map and mode, what stands out to you here?
This map really, like, obviously crab is really good everywhere, but on this map especially, if you set up on that bottom area by the grates, you just have such great angles to take advantage of those explosher type shots and that hydro-like fire and just fully shutting down that area. And also you can stand up on that block in mid and do a lot of pressure that way. And there's also a great use for missiles on this map. And I do know that we've been seeing some E-leaders on this map from a lot of teams. I don't know if any of these teams will pull that out though.
Yeah, Nine, is it fair to say I have oftentimes found myself staring down the barrel of an E-leader, and I feel like, especially in Brinewater, there really is no safe place to get away from the action in the middle. You either have to commit to what's happening or really be a teammate that's not going to do much to help your team if you're trying to stay out of range of everything.
Yeah, at a certain point, if you play passive, not only on this map, but on any map, you will give the opponent the momentum that they need to push back in. And like it or hate it, it can't be disputed that Brinewater is a map where you can go and attack your opponent's spawn area, and do so, as Nox noted, pretty safely from the middle of the map with a crab or an E-leader. So you say staring down the barrel of an E-leader here. The E-leader also has to stare down the barrel of a crab, and that's one of the interesting portions about this map. When you come out, you do have the high ground, and you have access to mid from the high ground, so makes it that much more difficult for those long-range weapons to have their say.
Yeah, I was going to say, Nox, the fact that your spawn has such a height advantage over the rest of the map, it probably makes it hard, especially in splat zones, to secure that zone and then really push and force the opposing team back near their spawn.
Yeah, it does. You really need to have super aggressive weapons to be able to get away with stuff like that. There have been Tetras doing stuff like that in a lot of tournaments recently, and you just need to make sure that you're either going to really get far up there or you're not going to overextend into it at all.
Ink bubbles, guitar riff, that can only mean one thing. We are getting set for our very first game here of the Splatoon 3 Splatsville Showdown event number 2. And let's go ahead and check out the action as we see both teams making their way towards the map. Nine, anything stand out with these loadouts out the gate?
Well, if you're seeing double, it's not just you. These teams have opted to bring the exact same composition out on both sides, and both of the E-leader players are out as well. Wave on the side of Crush Soda and .Q. You knew that she was going to break it back out eventually. The trusted E-leader here on Brinewater Springs.
All right, Sayonara already securing the early lead here as they start to build upon that as well, too. And Crush Soda now in that situation here, Nox, where they've got to quickly take back this zone and then also push back Sayonara.
Yeah, Crush Soda really wants to get in here and start applying those penalty points to Sayonara so they can start making a really solid push. They have managed to get 2 down and are getting close to having a few specials online, which should enable them to go a little bit further up. But as I say that, Q manages to get a great pick.
All right, 3-2 advantage for Sayonara, and just like that, Nine, Sayonara able to take control, a very short-lived push for Crush Soda.
Yeah, 2 incredible shots from .Q to make that happen. We've always talked about how more than any weapon in the game, all it takes is 2 shots from a charger to completely change the dynamic of it. They broke back in almost, they made it look easy, no specials needed, and they should be able to set up their own crab loops at this point to maybe take this the distance. This is not a lot of points left for them to score.
Critical splat for Sayonara. They're able to stop a crab from hopping out on the field, and already possession changing hands here. Nox now Crush Soda with a chance. What do they need to do here to try and turn the tide?
They need to be able to make sure that Sayonara doesn't manage to get those specials online. They don't have a good way to get in with Sayonara just constantly being able to keep those specials going, keep them in loop, especially since Sayonara is doing a great job of not overextending into Crush Soda's space and not making the mistake of getting splatted at an inopportune moment.
The game is kind of stalled at this point. Crush Soda taking control of the zone. They've got their crab out now, a chance for them to move forward. However, starting to get pushed back a little bit. You see that burst bomb coming in. Oh, almost a near snipe right there, Nine. But so far, Sayonara doing a great job of pushing Crush Soda back.
Yeah, and you can see what the game plan is. They're going to be moving their Splash-O-Matics up to attack and their Sloshy Machine to follow through. They're going to try to peek over ledges to take some shots and then use that in order to set up their special loops, as Nox noted here. But again, credit to Crush Soda, understanding the part of the map that they need to defend to keep themselves in the game. They haven't been able to get any extended holds off of it, but they're keeping pace thus far.
Yeah, to your point, Nine, they have not been able to really secure that zone for a significant amount of time. Here they go. They finally have a chance. 4-4 on the map here. And Nox, at this point when it's pretty even, what's the play for Crush Soda if they want to get back into this one?
Well, not to get picked up by a crowd quite like that.
Just as I say it. The curse already in game one. I'm sorry.
But we're seeing them doing just a great job of utilizing their specials. Sayonara doing a great job of taking those specials, using them at great moments to make sure that they can just retake this zone. Zones is a mode a lot about just getting those retakes in and just making sure that the other team can't get as much done as you have managed to. And since Sayonara had that great early push, they're really looking for retakes and hoping to get a couple points off of it. But even if they can just...
Oh, I'm so sorry, Nox. There, Nine, I wanted to point out that Booyah Bomb taking care of the Wave Breaker at that point, and that seems like one of those specials that's going to maybe possibly turn the tide for Sayonara here.
Yeah, well, they're going to need another Booyah Bomb here to match what Kyo is tossing out here. They're going to throw some more at the zone here. Just 10 more ticks, all it'll be. And that's going to be one player that went down. Another one got down. Wave was able to take both of those players out. Again, everything we said about .Q goes the other way as well. And E-Leader, incredible at turning the tide of this game. And now suddenly it's looking like Sayonara's on the back foot.
And as you continue to take a look, it was getting pretty close there at that moment. Now it's Crush Soda with the advantage. Crush Soda with the chance for an unbelievable comeback here. Under a minute left, Crush Soda going to close this out, and Crush Soda gets it done. So how about that, the turnaround here? And Nox, we were getting so excited, I jumped on you there with the Booyah Bomb, but how about the way that Crush Soda was able to close this out and really just continue to apply that pressure against Sayonara?
Yeah, Crush Soda did such an incredible job of just ensuring that once they were able to get into mid there, their playstyles really enabled them to just hold that space very well and push Sayonara very far back and not let them get back in. They kept Sayonara in a very staggered space where they were all kind of having to come in one at a time and not really having time to get those specials ready.
And Nine, it just speaks to consistency sometimes. You can go ahead and lose the lead early on and feel like the other team has control, but as long as you just keep attacking, and stay on the offensive, like we saw from Crush Soda, all you're really looking for are those one or two moments that can really turn the tide.
Absolutely, and we talk so often about set play with regards to splat zones where you're going to set up your crab loops, you're going to be able to build up specials, use those to neutralize the zone, apply some penalty points, and we rinse and repeat for the full 5 minutes. But there are always brief moments where you can throw a wrench in that, and again, I want to give credit to Wave on that E-Leader, taking out the crab of, I believe it was Sun, right as soon as it popped up, meant that they weren't able to set up their loops. There was no chance to neutralize the zone, and at that point, you're up 4-2, you move forward, and the rest starts to fall in line.
All right, we have Tower Control coming up next. We'll let you know what map here in a moment, but Tower Control, Nox, high-level play. What are teams really focusing in on as we've seen this meta start to form? What are some of the strategies that we're going to most likely see here in this next game?
Yeah, we see a lot of people just making sure that they can maintain that space in front of the tower, make sure that they have a clear road ahead of them, and oftentimes, as we've been mentioning a lot, using Crab to do it. Crab also is used to ride the tower quite a bit to just ensure that they have that safety and that space that they need without needing to take a ton of risks, because with Crab on the tower, you can go into that ball for a second if you need to.
So we'll be at Flounder Heights, and Nine, looking at Tower Control, Flounder Heights, what are you going to be needing from your teammates? Let's say you're in the Crab, you're riding this tower, you've got things on lockdown there. What do you need from your teammates as you guys try to get from checkpoint to checkpoint?
You need creativity, and this map, maybe more than any other right now in Splatoon 3, really speaks to how these burst bomb weapons, most notably the Splash-O-Matic, can move around and attack and defend from really awkward angles. And I would say, of any map, the time to not be predictable is on this map. If you sit at the spots that are conventionally good to defend from, the opponent's going to work around a wall, they're going to be waiting right beneath it, they're going to pop out, get a splat, pop their own crab, or if it's a sloshing machine, their own Booyah Bomb, and they're going to start the snowball right there. Points can fly off the board because that tower moves right up to the opponent's spawn, and as we so often see, if you're there already, the opponent's probably not getting back in.
Knox, one thing that people really love about this map is what Nine said. There's so many different ways that you can approach mid and surprise other players. What do you think are some of those secret spots that you can get to? Some of the ways that you can really ambush your opponent?
Yeah, there's definitely a ton of them on this map. One of the ones I've seen used a lot to get a crab setup or a good booyah bomb setup is there's a wall right outside of your, there's a wall that if you swim forward from your spawn, you can get to. And if you climb up that, you get this really great high perch above everything that's very far away from everyone. So with a crab or a booyah bomb, you get a very safe way to pop it where you're not going to get instantly shredded in booyah bomb. And your crab doesn't get overly challenged usually. It's also a great place for weapons like E-liters to set up, because we do definitely see E-liters and some things like that coming out on this map. And it's also a map where we do see slightly less crabs than usual. Oftentimes just one on a team.
You know, Nine, there's so much talk about crab, but what are some of the specials it pairs well with? And is this a situation where you are trying to stack your specials as soon as you roll out that crab? Or do you want to make sure that you've got 3 players that have got their main weapon, you've got crab, and then you can cycle through those specials later?
Yeah, it's context sensitive, and I think if you find the answer to that question that you had, you're probably a top team, because there are moments where, hey, getting in my special, it's too slow. I cannot sit back in my booyah bomb and wait. I cannot take the moment where crab has to charge up and go through. We simply have to move forward and attack, and we'll worry about our specials after that.
Crush Soda picking up the first win. First team to 3 will move on to winners finals. We'll see if they can build a 2-0 lead, or will Sayonara strike back. We've got tower control on Flounder Heights, and as we continue to move forward here, any changes? We see those 2 sloshers, a little bit of a difference now in these loadouts here, Nine.
Yeah, a little change here, and they've also opted to go with one of the newer weapons that has been added, the Tentatech Splatter Shot. So trying to go with a more effective bomb here. It is going to be that Splat Bomb as well as the triple Ink Strike there. So maybe they feel that that is the way that they will be able to clear tower from a distance. But it's an interesting gamble. It's hard to put away a good old-fashioned crab tank.
.Q trying to retreat, finally has to super jump, and that's going to be the first checkpoint for Crush Soda. The timer moves down as they move to the second one. Here's Sun in the middle of a little bit of a firefight here, trying to move forward, has their crab ready to go, but Nox, Crush Soda just like that, getting to the second checkpoint.
Yeah, this map especially, a lot of things can snowball on, and things like that triple strike are something that often are often used to try and stop that. But this map is very much a map where if you have the momentum, you can just keep going and going and going, because the tower does push so close to that enemy spawn, and we're just seeing them being able to kind of steamroll it right now.
As you said, Crush Soda, no pun intended, crushing it right now. And Nine, what we're seeing is just really great balance and timing of this crab, just applying so much pressure. But finally, Sayonara able to put the brakes on it momentarily.
Yeah, momentarily being the key operative word there. Q hits a crazy shot to make it happen, but eventually when you don't take out Kyo, he's going to be able to move around the tower. And listen, folks, we said right at the start that this is a snowbally map if you are able to get your attack and defense out from the right spot. You cycle your crabs, there really is nowhere to hide. And as Nox noted earlier, you can fire the crab from such relative safety here to assist with the pushing of the tower. And that's why even on a map where we don't see as much Flash-O-Matic, it's still pretty powerful. So, you know, take that for what you will.
So, Nox, we're going to see this map later, and maybe it's tower control, and it feels like it's one of those maps that, regardless of the game mode, whoever strikes first is going to have a huge advantage.
Yeah, it definitely can be a map that has that. But on the other hand, that first checkpoint, if a lot of players don't go down at the start, it is so hard to get through that. And it's a map where an E-leader, while it can be a great benefit, also can't be up there fighting with you. It puts them in too much danger. So having an E-leader can force you to have to play a lot slower, which is something that can hurt you on a map that does steamroll and snowball like this.
All right, 9, 2-0 Crush Soda. If you're Sayonara, who we know played so well in the event number 1 of the Splatoon 3 Splatsville Showdown, what's their conversation like? Because just like that, you're now almost close to getting eliminated, sent down to the losers bracket. Any changes you feel like they might need to make as we get set for this third game?
Yeah, as frustrating and heartbreaking as it is to say when there's a player of .Q's caliber on the E-leader here, if you're going to go for anything that isn't splat zones here, speed really is key, certainly in Rainmaker, and depending on the map, it can be Eel Tail as well. I know .Q is a very talented Flings a Roller player and also has been playing some Splash-O-Matic of her own to this point in the tournament as well, because right now they're simply getting outpaced in any of these more attack-heavy modes. I know Splat Zones was close, but I think you have to have that conversation. Do you have enough speed? Do you have enough team play? And is the E-Leader really contributing in those moments?
All right, Nox, we've got Clam Blitz on Eel Tail Alley, so give us a little sampling of what we can expect to see here in this next game.
We can expect to see a lot of very skirmishy type fights happening in mid, especially because of how narrow the map is. There's not a lot of side routes to take. You are kind of forced to just go in, win your fights as a team. There is no funny flank you're going to pull off. There's not going to be a lot of those odd Clam Blitz moments where you might just find a way in with a power clam. There's no sneaking on this map. Everything you do can be seen, and you're not going to find a little hidden entry point.
You know, Nine, I've got a pretty elementary question here for you, but there's going to be a lot of folks watching this that are starting to get into competitive play, and they want to know how they can get better in some of those building blocks of becoming an elite player to find their way on a team like this. A lot of one-on-one fight situations here because of Eel Tail Alley's layout. How do you go about making sure you get the advantage in those moments, regardless of what your weapon is, let's say?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I would say the elementary answer to your elementary question is focus on surviving. If you go in and try to take a fight with the opponent and you're in a position where you've got control of mid and you've pushed up and you're advantaged, back up a little bit. Go back to the safety of your team, build up your specials, because the one big threat is that you will just push forward eventually as a team. You will work through and take out the opponents, and sometimes that threat is greater than the actual execution. It can force the opponent to get a little bit nervous. Maybe they come out and fall for your trap and try to fight you as well, but you can't accomplish anything when you're respawning, so keep that in mind above all else.
Well, I appreciate that answer. I'm going to go back to my coloring book here with my crayons and markers in just a second, but Nox, you get to Clam Blitz, and we've seen a lot of strategies where teams have a lot of coordination. It feels a little chaotic at first, right, as you're gathering clams, but it feels like when you're ready to strike for that basket, how important is the coordination to maximize the score you can get each time?
It is absolutely vital to make sure that you have that coordination. There is no strong push in Clam Blitz without working entirely as a team. You don't want to get just one power clam in. You want to get a full push of aiming for usually below 60 points, in my opinion.
So working like a team, would you say that team has to work at like the level of like Duke basketball or North Carolina basketball?
I mean, I'd say UNC first.
Obviously, Nox, a Tar Heel for life. Have to get that in there, of course. But as we get set for Clam Blitz here and basket and everything that goes along with these sporty sports here, Nine, we take a look at these loadouts here, my friend. I go to you every single time, Nine. What are we seeing here?
Well, most notably, it is going to be the charger that is coming out from .Q, but it's going to be a different charger here. This is the Splat charger, and that means that there's going to be an ink vac here. So that'll give them a little more sustainability when they push in, but of course, shorter range on the charger means it's going to be a little more difficult to win those charger fights when they're both in mid.
We saw Thunder pick up a splat in that crab tank, then all of a sudden goes down, so 4-3 advantage Sayonara, and you see they're even with the total number of clams that they have at this moment, and for Crush Soda, it just feels like here Nox, they're just going to kind of bide their time and wait for that opportunity to strike like a cobra.
Great work here by .Q getting that shot, and now this is again the part that we kind of talked about earlier, Nox, here. These charger fights in mid, I think, are the big reason why this has gone so slow thus far.
Yeah, with two chargers just watching over mid like that, it's a very frightening thing to try and move in on, especially with two chargers of this caliber, where you know they're probably going to hit their shot on you if you give them any opportunity to.
Absolutely, and Jordan, it's scary now. Finally, we do have an opening. It is Sayonara that struck first, and credit Thunder, they're actually able to get one and stifle this push ever so slightly, but as we march forward towards the 60 point that Nox mentioned here, suddenly it looks like a little new life here for Sayonara.
It really does, as Sayonara has taken this huge lead off the beginning, and that's what you're looking for, getting close to 60, as we've always said before here, Nine, and that's a strong push. And don't forget, if they pick up this game, this is a huge confidence boost for a team that is already rattled and pretty beaten handily by Crush Soda these first two. But now, Sayonara going to have to shift to defense here, Nox, and if you're Crush Soda, what are you thinking offensively to try and get through these frontline defenses of Sayonara?
You're thinking, where am I going to put my crab to make sure that we can get a lot of pressure out, especially on that E-Leader so that they don't have free reign. And with that wave breaker coming out from the E-Leader, you're wanting to make sure that you don't have your crab tank too involved with that, because it is a pain to deal with specials like Wavebreaker with crab.
As we continue to take a look at the action here, you still see Crush Soda unable to get that basket open. So Sayonara with just under 3 minutes left here, 9. You have to like the way they've responded here so far, and maybe this is what they wanted to do. Mix things up, make things a little bit more chaotic, less centralized on a map, right? Force Crush Soda to spread out.
Yeah, this is the scary part, though. They've done such a great job of that throughout the entire game, but all it takes is one team fight going the other way, and suddenly they get to set up in the same spot. Once the opponent holds your bridge on the other side of mid here, it makes it very, very difficult to hold any major sort of defense. It appears that they've done that thus far, simply getting the punishment onto Goss there, breaking through the last portions of that crab tank. Even if Goss had been able to escape, though, you have to think that was the end of that push.
Not bad by Crush Soda, but Sayonara doing what they needed to do there, Nox, and that was apply that pressure on Goss. So here's Thunder trying to hide in some ink, get splatted. Now an opportunity for Sayonara with numbers on the map to push forward, because you still have to play aggressively at this moment here, Nox, even though you have the lead.
Yeah, with Clam Blitz especially, as long as you are the one holding that mid area, making sure that you have the majority of the clams, you can kind of ensure that they won't get a quick push off on you, especially with how well Sayonara is keeping that mid area painted. A thing that a lot of people are overlooking about Splash and how strong it is right now is the fact that it also paints so well. You can't hide from a Splash. It'll paint your feet. You can't get away from that. The burst bombs will apply that chip damage, and you can't not be seen when there are 2 Splashes running around on the map.
Under 90 seconds left. Sayonara not ready to say it yet. They want to stay alive in the winner's bracket. They'll go ahead and take a splat, but they still have the lead here, 9. But no lead is safe when you've got Kyo and Crush Soda. And now we're taking a look at Goss. Goss trying to move forward, avoiding a couple of shots. Finally going down, though, with a minute left. And now here's an opportunity. 4-2 on the map here, 9, for Sayonara to try and put a lid on it.
Yeah, it's funny. You saw a couple of those Splash players moving around each other, both wearing Ninja Squid, having no idea that the other was swimming right next to them here. And that's what this mid fight has been for a while. The Chargers taking shots different spots, throwing burst bombs around are the other Splashes, simply looking for where the opponent is. Right now, with just 30 seconds left, they've got a crab. They have a Booyah Bomb as well. They have all the resources they need to defend.
3 specials remaining for Sayonara. Under 30 seconds left. You get a feeling they're ready to stop this last final push coming from Crush Soda. Crab is out for Crush Soda. Here's Kyo trying to move forward, going through some dots of yellow ink, and an ocean of purple goes down at this point. 10 seconds left. So that's 1 critical player down for Crush Soda. Sayonara, will they hold on for a couple of more seconds and force a game 4? We're in overtime here. Crush Soda now with a 4-1 advantage. Nox, here's their opportunity.
Yeah, we're seeing Crush Soda trying to push in here, not gonna be able to take out that machine player as Q manages to get a great pick there on the E-leader. The Splash trying to set up jumps for their teammates. It doesn't seem like Sayonara's noticed them, but they finally have, and it looks like Sayonara will be able to take this game.
Goss was just looking for clams there, 9. You saw them swimming around, just looking for something to throw in the basket. They just needed 2 clams, 9, to steal that victory, but it's Sayonara that gets the win. Barely, though, I must say, down the stretch, because that was awfully close, 9.
Yeah, absolutely. You saw that Goss was sitting below the basket, spamming this way, and that's the old solo queue tactic here. You don't usually see that, and I have to imagine in the voice chat there were other words being said, but Thunder did have 4 clams, right? If that jump had gone off, you will at least get one of those clams in if you mash the throw button as you are coming in. Even if Thunder had got it splatted, there's a chance that Goss lucks into one of those clams that gets dropped, tosses that in, and steals a victory. But credit to Sayonara. They entered overtime with only 1 player left on the map, and they found a way to hold it and give themselves a fighting chance in this set.
So now they get set for game 4. This will be Rainmaker. Because of the rules, of course, you've got to go through every game mode first. But when you take a look here at Rainmaker, what we're going to expect to see and what we've seen from Sayonara so far, where they like to play a faster paced game, what do they have to try and make sure to do here, Nox, in Rainmaker to try and force a game 5? Because as we saw, they barely just got by in Clam Blitz.
Yeah, Sayonara is really going to want to make sure that they're not going a lot of players down at once. They don't really want another 3 down in the last moment situation. Always a very stressful moment when you're playing on a team and that happens. And they really want to make sure that they're just clearing space, making sure that they're taking the time that they need and setting the game to their pace, not going into 1v1s that they don't necessarily want. And just in the same way that, like, basketball gets played a lot of the time, you want to make sure that your team is setting their own pace for it.
Hey, I love it. So we've got Scorch Gorge, Rainmaker here, 9, and what can we expect to see? Because this is one of those maps, again, where things open up a little bit more, and with more map to work with, that's also more sight lines for an E-leader, potentially.
Yeah, for an E-leader, and I would say if there's ever a map that you are going to bring out a Splat Charger for InkVac, it would be this map. For those of you unfamiliar, the last, I would say, 40 points maybe of this do tend to go up the ramp of your opponent, and they can fire at you from every which angle there, but they can't fire through an InkVac in that position. Now, I know this is still Rainmaker, and if you could set up that situation every time, of course you would. It's not so simple in Practicum, but I'm very, very intrigued to see if that's the way that Sayonara opts to go there. Q did go with that weapon in Clan Blitz. It's Eel Tail, so that is a Chargers map. That's where you'll see a lot of them here. If it comes out here, you know what the main goal is.
And it really feels like, Nox, Sayonara has to be the aggressor. I know it's real basic talk, like every team wants to play aggressive, but it feels like they've got to make sure they get in those number advantages, because we've seen those first 2 games where it's a centralized game mode, where it's whether it's splat zones, whether it's tower control, when the action's all hanging around one object, it really feels like the advantage goes to Crush Soda at that point.
Yeah, it really seems like Sayonara wants to be able to set the pace of the game, and they want to set it relatively quickly. They want to be able to move around where they need to, and by having a numbers advantage and having more paint on the map, you can pretty much always ensure that. It does seem like in the last game they were able to keep a lot more paint going down as we are getting into this.
Crush Soda, they still lead 2-1. They need one more game to move on to winners finals. Sayonara stole the last one, hung on barely at the end. Can they force a Game 5 and swing the momentum? We have got Rainmaker, Scorch Gorge, and all right, 9, I'm not even going to ask the question. You know what I'm going to you for, my friend.
They have gone to the faster comp here, them being Crush Soda here. The E-leader is on the shelf, and they are going with the flavor of the month right now. Double sloshing machine, double splash-o-matic here. They say it's Rainmaker, eventually will force a fight, and with this roster, we will win those fights.
All right, Crush Soda, laundry day for them, trying to see how many loads they can get through. Still trying to pick up this game. Right now, 4-4, nothing crazy. Nobody's grabbed the Rainmaker. Sayonara losing a player at this moment, and for Crush Soda, with this comp, as 2 of them go down now here, Nox, it really feels like they have to make sure they win their one-on-ones.
Yeah, they absolutely do. They really don't want to be taking one-on-ones in this comp. They want to make sure that they are taking those fights in at least sets of 2 to ensure that they can have more safety in those fights and make sure that their numbers stay up. Because as great of a charger as .Q is, it is so hard to just defend this as a charger on their own, as we're seeing them now getting bombarded by this crab in the machine.
9, that was a huge play by Gauze, able to go down, get the splat on Leafy, turn into the crab, and apply that pressure. We'll see if Crush Soda can finally utilize that. Both teams here, 9, waiting over a minute before they grab that Rainmaker.
Yeah, the great joust in the center of Scorch, as we like to call it here. It almost always happens regardless of the map and mode. And again, big credit to the fundamentals and survivability of Goss there to give the team the opportunity to do this here. That first checkpoint going down as quickly as it did does not bode well for Sayonara, with another defensive resource going down here. Really, they just need to decide who's going to grab it here, because there are points ahead of them to be had.
Couple of critical splats for Crush Soda. However, they take care of the Rainmaker very quickly, does Sayonara. Here's Kyo. Kyo going down now. So Sayonara here, Nox, at a situation where you felt like Crush Soda was going to maybe run away with it. Excellent, excellent defense at that moment.
Yeah, Sayonara's been playing some great defense up until this point, and it's just that one last machine on their plat here. And it seems like they're finally going to be able to reclaim some space, try and get some paint on the map, because they need to get more purple on this map in order to make it so that they can do that. And .Q getting a great splat there.
.Q picking one off, that'll certainly help. 4-2 advantage, under 3 minutes left, and now we're seeing .Q kind of move forward a little bit here, 9, and that's really the feeling that you're getting from Sayonara. Let's start to push forward and be the ones that want to play a little offense here.
Yeah, you have to remain active, and that's always the big key. If you're a backline player, great shot there from Issa on Goss, who was waiting to jump behind to break up that attack before it could get started. And now suddenly this is going the other way. If they can get through Thunder's Crab, and they do, there's not a lot left to defend this. One Booyah Bomb, if they wait through this patiently, they should be able to break this checkpoint, and what a sigh of relief they would breathe if they're able to.
Yeah, championship play there by Issa, able to pick up that splat, apply that pressure, but now they are still trying to get through all of these explosion shots coming through here, sloshing machine, excuse me, as they try to get to that first checkpoint, and that's what's so hard here, Nox. You just got to try and get things tied up at this moment, but now you've really put yourself in a corner as Crush Soda knows exactly what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and the first checkpoint on this map can be really hard to break through unless you have a good few players down or a lot of specials to try and force it. It seems like .Q's trying to get to this podium and is able to get there as 3 go down for Crush Soda, so this could be a huge push for Sayonara.
Q all by themselves, hanging out in the back, waiting for some more resources, but here comes Sayonara pushing it forward, and 9, they take the lead with under 90 seconds left.
Yeah, incredible stuff and incredible patience waiting. Really, it felt like a whole minute there simply to do it. They're not done yet. Pushing it forward to take the points, and I would not be stunned here if they continue to fight and attack. You can see still a couple more shots as it does look like Issa going to be content to simply throw some bombs down there. They're going to try to hold mid at this point, just 60 seconds left. But again, the fortitude of Sayonara to wait that long for the push to start and to then get everything they could out of the first time they'd grabbed that Rainmaker.
Buckle up, this is going to be a long 50 seconds as Sayonara is trying to hang on, as 9 pointed out. They're going to try and lock down mid, claim all that real estate and cover it in purple ink. But right now, really looks like map control here, Nox, is going to Crush Soda. They've got their tank out. They're really starting to move forward.
Yeah, Crush Soda has absolutely managed to get a ton of map control going here, but we are in a 2v2 situation. We have specials online for Sayonara, and we are seeing them reclaiming a bit of this map control, but also knowing that they don't want to overextend in this situation. They want to make sure that they have players up to be able to defend whatever comes at them, while still trying to keep Crush Soda from getting too many specials online, or if anything, or if nothing else, trying to force them to pop them early.
You saw .Q trying to clean up before closing time. Rainmaker in the tentacles of Crush Soda. Crush Soda needs to get to the 24-point mark. We're going to head to overtime here. 4-3 advantage, Sayonara. This is to force a Game 5 as Sayonara picks up the win. Crush Soda trying to end it and move on to winners finals. These are the moments you love. Super jumping coming in here in 9. What's the game plan here for Crush Soda?
Well, you saw it right there. They had to get their jumps back in. You know, the longer you hold the Rainmaker, more time the opponent is going to have to build up their defensive resources. Issa goes and tries to make a play on the dive and hold on. 3 down. It's just Q. Can she hit the shot? She does! She saves the game. An unbelievable shot from .Q.
Unbelievable indeed, my friend. You talk about needing a play at the most critical moment. .Q lines it up and notches this thing up at 2-2 and forces a Game 5. And how about crawling back from a 2-0 hole here, Nox, to tie this thing up? It feels like all the momentum now in favor of Sayonara after they took those 2 quick early L's.
Yeah, .Q just having such a great state of mind to be able to hit that shot. It's so easy to freeze up in situations like that. So to have the presence of mind to not panic, to take that breath, and just make sure that you line it up and breathe is so incredible. It does seem like Sayonara has found their footing and has figured out what they want to do here. And it feels like they have a way better chance at it, especially since they do still have some control over what map they head to.
Yeah, that's a screenshot right there that you just clip and send to grandma to hang up in her house right there. .Q with an absolute remarkable pickoff to close that game. So now it's dealer's choice as we get set for Game 5. You can revisit any game mode at this point here, and if you are Crush Soda here, 9, what are you thinking about? You saw tremendous success in Splat Zones and Tower Control. Do you go back to one of those, I imagine, after you saw what Sayonara did to you in Rainmaker and Clam Blitz?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, if at all possible, you go back to Tower Control. Well, there it is. We just heard it from on high. I was going to say, you absolutely wiped the floor with Sayonara, and I know part of that was Flounder Heights, but the way that they played and the way that their double slash machine and double splash-o-matic comp here enables all of these players to go and fight, which is what they want to do. It makes it that much more difficult for Sayonara to set up the more measured game plan that they like to go for here. So this is not a surprise whatsoever.
Now, Nox, I could absolutely be wrong here, which would be normal sometimes, but I feel like Inkblot Art Academy is the final stage remaining of our 5-stage rotation as we get set. So we're going to have Tower Control, Inkblot Art Academy, if I am correct for the first time in a blue moon. What are we going to see from this map and mode?
I would expect to see the sloshing machines absolutely coming out again here. There are so many ledges that they can play around, and sloshing machines and ledges are very good friends. They get along very nicely, along with those fizzy bombs. I know we don't talk about their fizzy bombs all that much, but it is part of what makes the weapon so dominant. And those fizzy bombs also apply a ton of pressure to the enemy crab. And I do expect we will still be seeing double crab out of both teams. And I do think that if there's a map where .Q might switch to Flings, it could be this one, just because chargers can get pushed around quite a lot here.
So if that is the decision by .Q, which seems like a titanic one here, for Sayonara 9, what are you thinking about strategy-wise with that Flings? How are you going to play differently than if you had Splattershot or E-Leader?
Certainly. I mean, the missiles, of course, are the reason that you would go there. And Inkblot Art Academy Tower Control might be the most map-and-played combination in the history of Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3 combined here. Everybody goes to it, and everybody knows the position that you want to fire your missiles from. Makes it that much more, I'll say, that much more adept at moving up with the missiles, right? When you get set up, you want to be on the tower when you fire them, and the tower simply happens to be in maybe the best spot to fire the missiles at. Typically, it's facing right at the opponent's spawn, and it is one of the few ways that you can break even a perfect defensive formation and move people up. So we'll see if that is the choice, but to your note, Jordan, after winning a game at the very end with your charger, I'd be hard-pressed to put it away no matter what the game
If it ain't broke, don't try to fix it, I'm telling you. If that thing is getting you to the promised land, you might as well ride that home. All right, let's see what we're going to go with here. Game 5, Crush Soda Sayonara. This is what we all tune in for, to see two top teams battling on the brink. 9 comp, go.
There it is. It's coming out. It is an E-Leader on one side, but it is not going to be coming out of .Q. .Q has brought out the other weapon that was on the shelf this entire time. We told you, folks, this player is capable of bringing out a Splash-O-Matic all the same, and it's actually going to be the comp we expected Crush Soda to run that instead Sayonara is going with.
So this will be interesting. .Q, who had been hanging out as a backliner applying pressure, now going to mix it up with that Splash-O-Matic. We'll see the crab already applying some pressure. Sayonara with the early tower, and Nox, this was the difference. Last time in tower control, they didn't strike early. They got knocked on the back foot. Here they are trying to get out the gate first.
Yeah, it definitely feels like Sayonara said, I know we didn't play fast enough last time in tower control, so this time we'll just be much faster. There is nothing slow about the way two splashes and two machines play. The amount of chip damage they both do and the amount of pressure they both apply is intense. And we are seeing Leafy here playing around this stack and taking advantage of all that chip damage that you can get around corners.
Leafy doing a nice job to give the numbers advantage to Sayonara. Crush Soda, all 4 players back on the map. Little one-on-one. Crab applying a little bit of pressure. Booyah Bomb coming out. However, you're going to have a member of Sayonara go down, but they continue to ride that tower. And 9, I'm going to say it, it's early. Control Sayonara.
Yeah, control Sayonara, and they have been, again, so patient with their objective play. There was an opportunity early where maybe they could have dove onto the tower and broken that first checkpoint. Instead, they say, we've got control of mid, get everybody back together, let's set up the loops and move through, and we'll eventually get there. We will be fine. And now Leafy has pushed up. If Leafy gets this pick onto the E-Leader, it could be huge. Was able to get the Booyah Bomb out. A crab. The jumps are in, and this is a completely different Sayonara. 2 checkpoints already out of the way.
You saw it in the corner of your screen. Sayonara not playing around here, trying to close it out. A reverse sweep potentially on the table for Sayonara. They've got a sizable lead, but 3 minutes is a lifetime for Crush Soda. You've got Goss, Kyo, Thunder, and Wave. They are well determined to make sure they can move on to winners finals. And let's see if they can turn the tide here at this moment. Nox, you're looking at what Crush Soda's doing. What is different this time around for them than when we saw them dominate on Flounder Heights?
Well, one of the big differences is definitely the map. But a big thing here is that they are playing with that charger. When Sayonara isn't, they have to make sure that their charger has enough space to be in safely and make sure that their charger is set up. Playing with the charger is just making sure that they can do what they want to do. And as I'm saying that, they're able to move up a ton here, and they have a crab ready to be used. So this should be a big push from them.
Looks like Crush Soda starting to get a little comfortable here, getting to the second checkpoint. Let's go ahead and make this thing interesting here. Crush Soda moving forward. Goss hiding in the ink, trying to throw a little bit of a burst bomb. But now Crush Soda starting to threaten. That Booyah Bomb will be a big red stop sign for that current push. But right back on it goes Crush Soda. Crush Soda, 4-3 advantage. They're going to go ahead and take the lead here, 9, and try and chop into this third checkpoint.
I was going to say, this might be the lead and a whole lot more. Sun gets the most important pick there to close it down. And if Sun had lost that 1v1, the game would be over. Make no mistake about it. But there it is once again. We see what these teams are capable of on the attack, and Sayonara made a big gamble there. They backed way up on that defensive, hoping that they would be able to build their specials in time to hold on to their lead. Credit Crush Soda not falling for it, simply sitting back themselves, taking the points that were given to them. And with just 90 seconds now, it's going to need almost a knockout for Sayonara to pull this one back.
Complete change of position for Sayonara. You're sitting with a comfortable lead, about to maybe move on to winners finals. Now you're trying to splat for your life to stay in that winners bracket, as Crush Soda now has the lead. And here is another splat as .Q goes down. The crab continuing to just pinch out splats left and right. Crush Soda rolling here, Nox.
Yeah, Crush Soda just doing an incredible job taking advantage of any inch of space they are given by Sayonara, not letting Sayonara just reclaim space the way they want to. Goss just completely up here. Gonna try and find a pick in that 2v1. Not quite able to, but able to stall out that area for so long.
Under 40 seconds left. Sayonara's got to be nearly perfect here if they want to come back and take this game. You see the crab roll out by .Q. That's going to go bye-bye here in just a moment. 4-3 advantage, Crush Soda on the map. Sayonara scrambling at this moment here, 9. It really doesn't seem like everything's lined up for them to make this comeback.
No, you can see the way that these two teams have defended slightly different here. It's been Goss and Kyo on opposite sides of the map, moving around and finding their attacks from that spot. It's a different way of defending, simply separating the opponent before they can get anything started. Just 6 seconds left. They're going to have the specials to get this one started, but it is going to need the push of the century to make this one happen in overtime.
Well, it happens once every 100 years. We'll see if today's the lucky day. Sayonara, they are going to have to try and stay alive, and that won't do it for them as Crush Soda closes it out, avoids the reverse sweep, and puts the lid on this first winners semifinal. 3-2. They're moving on to winners finals, and I think you said it very well there, 9. It was divide and conquer, the art of war. Maybe you said it as well too, Nox. I think you guys were both on the same wavelength there. But going to you, 9, it really feels like that last half of the game, after Sayonara had taken full control, you really just saw what Crush Soda was able to do, where they got their push and then just kept Sayonara disorganized for the rest of the game, it felt like.
Absolutely, and you see the difference when you get a wipeout to stop your opponent's push and when you only take down 2 of them, or maybe you stagger 1 and then get 3 down over and over. Because after they made that big push, you note that there were still a couple members of Crush Soda who were in the middle of the map, and it was Kyo on the bottom of the screen, throwing fizzy bombs and making sure that Sayonara couldn't get a full push set up. We saw Goss do the same thing on the other side. We couldn't see Sayonara do that because they got wiped out at the end of their push, which meant Crush Soda could take mid, set up the perfect scenario for their own push, and it's the little details that go a long way at this level, and another Game 5 set.
All right, let's go ahead and check out the updated bracket as we go the distance. Game 5. 3-2, Crush Soda will move on to winners finals. Who will they face? Well, after the break, we'll see some action between Ascension and Last Resort. We're going to step aside momentarily, but you're watching the Splatoon 3 Splatsville Showdown, event number 2. More splatting when we come back.
Thanks for swinging by. I'm here with a secret to golf in the Nintendo Switch sports game. That makes me your grandcaddy. Golf is all about smooth moves, so you need to focus on the feel of the game. Grab your Joy-Con controller, line up your shot, and let it fly.
Nice shot.
Don't let the competition or hazards tee you off. Once you've got the basics, Junior's getting there. Give Survival Golf a try. It's an online matchup where everyone plays at once. Competition is fierce, and only the folks with the fewest strokes move on to the next round. With both online and offline modes, there's always golf to play, no matter the time of day. So, when are you gonna put your skills to the test with your family? Golf and Nintendo Switch Sports is available now. Rated E10 Plus for everyone 10 and up.
And welcome back to the Splatoon 3 Splatsville Showdown, event number 2. Jordan Kent hanging out here with Nine and Nox, and we just got done seeing a thrilling winner's semifinal between, of course, Sayonara and Crush Soda. As you take a look, 3-2, it went the distance. Let's check out the bracket and see who else will be stepping up to the plate here. It is going to be Ascension versus Last Resort to see who will face off against Crush Soda in those winners finals. And let's recap the rules in case you're just now joining us in these semifinals. We've got a couple of guidelines here as we continue to find out who will make their way towards winners finals. Top 4, it's double elimination. Higher seed will choose the mode, lower seed will choose the stage. After the first game, losing team will choose the stage, winning team will choose the mode. Those are your game modes. For map list, Flounder Heights, Brine Water Springs, Eeltail Alley, Inkblot Art Academy, and Scorch Gorge. Nox coming in. You highlighted Last Resort, a bit of a unique weapon loadout that we might see from them and a team that should be pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, Last Resort has been running 2 Splatanas, which is not something that we see very commonly at all. They do a ton of object damage, really viewed as a counter to crab right now. I will say that for them to be up against Ascension, it's going to be a little different for them because Ascension tends to only one crab, which is very different than what we typically see right now.
So we're going to have Rainmaker on Brine Water, and as we just saw with Last Resort, the windshield wipers, we'll call them here, Nine, because you're trying to get both of them working to just clear things out. Really bad that I have to explain a joke, but you look at Ascension. What's going to make them really stand out if they're able to move on against some of the teams that we've seen so far?
It's a good question, Jordan, and those who joined for our first version of this tournament know exactly what Ascension is capable of on maps where they can get up close and personal and fight. They have arguably the best 52 gal player in the entire game. Forget country, it's the world here, and that is Twig, someone who has gotten to the top of every single mode in X rank. So that means that player is going to be running forward and fighting. They do a great job of mixing in some Tri-Slosher and some other weapons as well, and because of that, it's very difficult to stop them once they get moving forward because they don't have the startup time of positioning their crab, getting that set up, getting that full fire rate moving. They're simply running at you and trusting that they can create a scenario where they can win fights.
All right, so Nox, it feels like we're going to see this song and dance of 52 gal versus these 2 Splatanas. If I'm the Splatanas, how do I try to give myself an advantage if I'm facing, as Nine said, the best 52 gal player in the entire world?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is that they're going to have to make sure that they get behind that wall rather than just... They can shred that wall. They are Splatanas. They do a ton of object damage. They absolutely can shred it, but they would rather go around it and not have to waste the ink on it.
Here we go as we get set for the first game between Ascension and Last Resort. And Nine, what's going to be really fascinating here is that frontline play back and forth, especially on a map where a lot of the action is going to happen down in the middle. Then you have to work your way back up as you start to get to the later part of your objective. But you know what? What do we got for our layouts, my friend?
Well, take your screenshot, folks. This might be the only time you only see one Splash-O-Matic on each team here. And we said you wouldn't see as many. We didn't quite expect it to look like this. Chara went over and actually switched to one of the other new weapons here, that Custom Splattershot Jr., which is omnipresent on the map with the fastest wave breakers that you'll see, really aiming to pester so that the other members of their team can move through without the need for specials.
And Last Resort, just like that, getting to the first checkpoint, so they strike early, and as you said it, that wave breaker coming out very soon. But here's Evan in the crab, up high, trying to apply some pressure, but doing a nice job is Last Resort here, Nox, of just staying back out of range of that crab.
Yeah, Last Resort showing a lot of patience here, knowing that they're not quite ready to move this Rainmaker up yet, and knowing that they have plenty of time left on that timer. Just looking for their opportunity as they sadly do go down to that burst bomb.
Yeah, that burst bomb doing a lot of damage there, that plucky little balloon filled with ink, and so that'll go ahead and give Ascension a little bit of momentum to even things out here. And now you've got an ink jet, you've got a crab tank on lock ready to go, and this is going to be the stacking of the specials here for Ascension 9 to try and move forward and get some points on the board.
Yeah, it's a good look for them here. You can see that Shinx is pushed up. Twig is going to be the seen threat, and Shinx the unseen threat. This is the combination that we have seen frontline duos use for the duration in any game. I don't care if it's 1, 2, or 3, and it works. Twig going to survive 4. If they can get around Arashi and Do, this has the potential to get very dangerous in a hurry.
Twig goes down, and so you've got Ascension that was able to get to that checkpoint, and now they've got the Rainmaker in control. And just as always, when you go up this ramp here, Nox, you're trying to find that moment that you can move forward, but it looks like Last Resort's done a nice job of pushing them further and further back.
Yeah, Last Resort doing an incredible job getting around Twig's wall there, moving around that Toxic Mist that Sheenex was throwing out, and just denying them any forward space. That being said, Ascension is still in there. They're still trying to move forward, and they've managed to get a 2-down situation, so they might be able to keep this push alive as long as they can get this Inkjet to get a couple picks.
Twig doing a really nice job of just some map control moving forward with that Killer Whale 5.1. Twig going to retreat just a little bit, trying to find a little bit more of an advantage point. There comes that Killer Whale. The pressure coming, and then Twig moving forward. And the movement that we're seeing right there, Nine, of Twig to move the entire team of Last Resort back towards spawn. Huge play.
And Twig finally goes down there. They've been defending for almost 2 minutes here, it feels like, all because Twig was there that entire time throughout the wall, and they don't have a ton of weapons that can immediately blast through that wall. One of their subs takes a little bit too long to go through. One of them has a burst bomb, which isn't going to do anything against the wall, and that is what Twig is known for, and that's certainly how they've earned the title of one of the best 52 gals in this game.
So Ascension with the lead, under 2 minutes left here. We haven't seen a second push come from Last Resort. It really feels like they've been playing defense the second half on the pitch here, but now we'll see if Last Resort can coordinate something. And really, Nox, if you feel like if you're Last Resort, how do we get control of this map again? Because it feels like it's slipped out of our hands.
Yeah, it definitely seems as though they've lost a lot of control. They're looking for spaces, and there's not a ton of space to paint on this map to get back in, and especially with constant specials coming out. Prochara trying to drop it there, but not going to be able to thanks to Sheenex's really great inkjet shots. But dropping it there would have been the ideal, because it would have at least allowed it to get back in mid, forcing Ascension to get back. But right now, Ascension's just applying constant forward pressure and denying any space as Sheenex manages to get that trade.
Yeah, it's a party near spawn right now for Ascension. Now they just have to bring that Rainmaker as the shield is going on, and with nearly a minute left here, it feels like Last Resort has really got to be coordinated here, Nine, because they have yet to really just get into the second half of the map here against Ascension. They've been locked out for nearly 2 minutes.
Well, and if you want to start it off, that's not the way you want it to go. One went down, but then quickly they jumped upon the other members and created a good scenario for themselves. Now, they do have the missiles on the defensive side. They're going to try to use that to sneak others up, and Twig was already there firing here. And again, these weapons that they're running aren't equipped to deal with Twig, who takes another down. And as everybody looks at dealing with this 52 gal, Sheenex and the rest of Ascension had all the time and all the room in the world to go and crash upon that Rainmaker. Textbook defense.
Twig just snapping Last Resort in half here and really just squashing any hopes they had of trying to make a comeback. Now it's under 20 seconds left. Possession towards Ascension. They're just going to hang out and use that Rainmaker, let that clock wind down, and this is all about just controlling the rock as time runs out. So Ascension, excellent play by Twig, and you were seeing first here, front row and center, Nox, the difference that Twig can make with such a dangerous 52 gal.
Yeah, 52 gal just is such an omnipresent weapon when it's on the map, thanks to that special with so much range. And the fact that it paints so well and that wall just allows it to stay wherever it wants to stay. It plays a skirmish role while still being able to get picks really well. And we see as Twig is able to get that one last spot they need to win that game.
Yeah, really not surprised that's how the game ended, right, Nine? I mean, it was just, that was the theme. Oh, what's going to happen? Twig's going to make a play here and end the game, and all of a sudden we're going to see how much of a baller they are. And so Twig just dominant in those one-on-one situations, and you felt like any time that Last Resort was trying to get some momentum, there was Twig hiding behind that splash wall, Nine, and just really eliminating any opportunity that Last Resort had to make a comeback.
It really did, and you can again say that 3/4 of that game were one long extended push for Ascension. And we talk so much about the different types of weapons in this game that can take the eyes of the opponent, the aggro of the opponent, force them to look one way while the real threat is moving up. And so often people will talk about the Tetra Dualies or the Splatana Wiper, these weapons that are very mobile, will simply move back, and if they get splatted, they're wearing quick response, so they'll be back here in a hurry. But Twig has another way of doing things, a weapon that you have to dedicate a lot of resources to move, and when you've got that kind of confidence in your individual skill, it makes it that much easier for everybody else, and when you get a couple highlight plays, it's all the better.
So the victory going to Ascension, they take game one, and now it feels like your team's strategy here after this first game, Nox, is how do we deal with this 52 gal? How do we make sure that Twig isn't the one dictating the direction the match is going as we get set for Clam Blitz on Flounder Heights? It really feels like taking care of Twig is going to be #1 priority for Last Resort.
Yeah, and I will say Flounder Heights seems like a pretty good map for taking care of them. 52 gals don't love playing around Heights that much. They have really high RNG. They like having a lot of narrow ways to work with. And while Flounder Heights has those, you can be flanked from any direction at any given moment. Which, if there's somebody in front of your wall and behind your wall, the wall's not that helpful anymore. And I will say, Sheenex is probably going to have a pretty good time with the Tri-Slosher here.
So it will be fascinating if we see some types of adjustments coming from Ascension, but you know, now you've got a wide open map here, 9, with a lot of different ways to get to mid, and a game mode where things aren't centralized right in the middle. This is going to be pretty interesting to see how these teams go toe-to-toe. Again, I think the emphasis probably comes down to how do you handle those one-on-ones? Can you create 2-on-1s? And then when it comes time for that push with the clam and the basket being available, you better make sure it counts. And once again, as we continue to get set for Clam Blitz here on Flounder Heights, it will be interesting. And we saw the 2 Splatanas that we know about here so far for Last Resort. And Nox, when you continue to look at what these Splatanas can do you think it's time to pull both of them out? Or at this point, do you try to make sure you keep things a little bit more balanced and you go with that Splattershot Junior?
I think it's a great time to pull both of them out. As much as Custom Splattershot Jr. is great on this map with that Wave Breaker and those torpedoes, so is Splatana Stamper. It can do such intense damage. The burst bombs allow it to maneuver around those walls, and Zipcaster is really wild here, allowing you to just get to anywhere you need to be.
Well, 9 is currently deep in thought at strategy here for this particular map. There's a lot going on. Clam Blitz on Flounder Heights as we get things rolling here at this point. Now we're moving forward, and you've got both these teams. And Nox, I'm going to give it to you this time. What do we see on these loadouts?
We're seeing the T-Tech coming out here from Last Resort, which is not something I expected to see, but something I'm always happy to. And Octobrush coming out from Chara, doing a very similar job to that Splatana Stamper of being able to just move around really easily, having suction bombs instead of those burst bombs. And Arashi, classically seen on that Wiper, having a great time with it, just moving where they want to. And the T-Tech being able to use these ink strikes to force people out of position, like that 52 gal.
Storm Hero with a power clam already, super jumping in, now has a bit of a cavalry in front of them, and already an early completion to take a 20-point lead. And just like that, Last Resort striking early, getting a few more clams in the basket, but now it feels like Ascension has kind of fortified things as you see all 4 players on their map starting to push forward, but an impressive opening push by Last Resort here, Nox.
Yeah, a really important thing to note about a lot of things Ascension are doing is that they are constantly trying to move Sheenex and Twig together, taking advantage of the fact that that Tri-Slosher can get in, get a lot of that damage, and cause a lot of distraction to allow the 52 gal to get set up, and then they kind of just keep switching back and forth on those rolls, along with using those missiles to take advantage and displace those of their opponents, as they have these 2 power clams at the ready and a crab coming out. This is going to be a huge push from Ascension.
Evan providing a lot of cover there with that crab. It's crab on crab combat here, as all of a sudden you see the wipeout coming from Last Resort. So that's one way to put an end to that push, but not before Ascension builds their lead. They're able to knock things down to 39. So you talk about big pushes. That's maybe all Ascension needed at the moment. Puts a lot of pressure on Last Resort here now to get organized and now move forward. And to me, Nox, this is where the game really begins for Clam Blitz, because both teams have gotten that pity clam. They've scored. Now we get to this mid game. How do you take advantage here if you're Last Resort of trying to move forward and get another opportunity to score?
Yeah, they really want to make sure that they're clearing around those corners, and they just weren't able to quite do that well enough, as Prochara was able to get a couple picks here, able to try and keep this mid control, but it's just him up there trying to find something, but not really being able to make space for teammates, just for himself, as Sheenex is able to start using this Toxic Mist to really negate space. And it looks like Ascension probably is going to be able to keep stalling this out for quite a while, since Last Resort hasn't been able to really make them feel too much pressure here.
So Ascension and 9, you've been able to take a lot here from this matchup so far. What are we seeing with just over 2 minutes left?
Well, again, it's been the initiative all on the side of Ascension here. The way that they're attacking and moving up. Nox said it at the very start, Shinnok should have a great opportunity to jump out and, again, take out anybody who is trying to start these pushes. You see Arashi swinging every which way with this Ultra Stamp, his patented Ultra Stamp, and I think was able to get one on the throw. But, again, when you have people who are waiting here, it, again, just slowly but surely takes the teeth out of any attack you have, because then you start checking the corner, you start checking every wall, and those are precious seconds that Ascension uses to get back into the fight.
And 9, once again, to your point, it really feels like Ascension has taken this lead, and they've replicated what we saw in Rainmaker, is take the lead and then all of a sudden spread out Last Resort and just create this wall that you won't be able to get by, and that we're going to make it so difficult and make it so that you have to spend all your resources just to get back to mid.
Yeah, and the most important resource is time. It's how quickly you can get set up the way that you want. We say it all the time, whatever your plan is, make it quick. And when you have to check around the corners, when you have to work around some of these walls, it makes it all the much slower. And that's one of the reasons why Swen, who you can see here on the Flingza roller, has been content to sit back and missile farm. Because again, all it does is slow down the team that they're up against just enough that the other players on the team can move forward and attack. Although credit Last Resort, they've been very patient thus far, and they've at least earned themselves some decent control of mid.
Yeah, you talk about patience. We see Storm Hero just chilling back here with the Power Clan, waiting for that opportunity. But there it is here, Nox. 4-2 on the map. You feel like you got to strike now if you're Last Resort.
They do need to strike now, and they should be able to with Arashi's hammer coming out, clearing a lot of space for them. They have these triple strikes ready to keep this push going, but will they be able to fully get it going? The triple strikes are out. It looks like Shinnok is trying to find this pick on the crab. Might be able to, at least causing a lot of distraction for him, and it looks like Last Resort is about to get this lead.
Keep an eye on Mecha. 8 clams as soon as that crab gets done. Gonna fill the basket up, and yes, you have it. Everybody's eating down. How about Last Resort? That comeback that we see there, 9. A perfectly executed push down the stretch to take the win.
Yeah, and again, great patience there to make that happen. They understood, all right, Ascension, you're moving up walls, you're jumping out these little spots here, getting a little cheeky with how you're attacking us here, so we'll let you show your hand first. And once they got up 4-2, they understood that they had taken all of mid, which means we're going to have our specials. We sent the opponents back to spawn. They won't have their specials. Let's cycle through here, and let's see how many points that we can get. They took out a decent chunk of the point total early on in the game, which allowed them to be a little bit riskier with how they were attacking at the end in order to get the knockout. So a fantastic show from Last Resort, and not at all surprised to see, once again, a great set thus far between teams here in the top 4.
And Nox, what I love is this game right here highlights how the action in Splatoon 3 can be so fast and it's frenetic, but within that, there is so much patience required for that one window that opens, and you called it out. When it was 4-2 and they had that stamp ready to roll, that's when they made the most of that moment. And when those opportunities pop up, as you know, a competitive player yourself, you have to make those count.
Yeah, in Splatoon 3, it's a lot about waiting for the moment where you can get an explosive push off. You're not waiting, you're not going for little pushes, you don't want to just stall. It's not like Splatoon 2 was, where it was a lot of use the missiles, use the armor, and then reset. It's wait for the exact right moment to make a huge explosive push and make something big happen as quickly as you can, so that it's either the game's over or you can reclaim mid and not have to take any risks.
So that makes it 1-1 as we get set for Splat Zones on Eeltail Alley here, 9, and this is always a fun one. What do you expect to see as we look at this map and mode?
Well, we're going to see a lot of the same from Ascension here. This was a map where they took a game from Starburst in that incredible set they played last time. Starburst, the finest of the fine when it comes to North American talent here. And Ascension were able to get a win here on this map. And this map is tailor-made for the way that they want to play. They want to move up and, again, force those fights, the team play, the survivability from that perspective. But the piece that I think will be most interesting here is what Pro Chara is going to pick, because Chara has one of the deepest stables of weapons, if you will, of anybody in this tournament here, and we really haven't even seen Chara's main weapon yet. That Splatana Stamper has remained sheathed thus far. This might be the time to pull it out.
Yeah, we'll see. We always talked about, and we hyped it up for him even, Nox, right? We said double Splatanas. Where is it? We gave it a nickname even. Don't hold out on us. We want to see those double Splatanas out on the map, and so, again, this is a tight map, not a lot of room to move around here. I imagine that 52-gallon Twig, they are going to feast potentially here, Nox.
Yes, absolutely, especially taking advantage of that toxic mist from Sheenex to just allow the 52-gal to kind of move wherever they want, while the enemies don't have the ability to move much or the ink to move much out of it.
All right, as we get set, and yes, I see it. Double Splatana, thank you, Last Resort. We were wanting to see that all day long. It comes out for Eeltail Alley and Splat Zones, and I imagine, Nine, you got to hustle your bustle to get to the Splat Zone and be the first one to claim it.
Absolutely, and this is, I would argue, the last resort comp here. They've got the stabilizing force of 2 crabs to get rid of Twig almost immediately, and then they're able to run the double wiper and all the shenanigans that they're going to get up to in that respect. A very nice early cap here. There's still some scrapping here. They need to take care of Sheenex here. This would be an absolute menace if they're able to survive and do not only winning the fight cleanly, but it does look like they were able to get their jumps in and stabilize once again.
So Last Resort sprinting out to the lead, and I feel like, Nox, that early pick of Twig really put Ascension back on their heels, but here come the missiles from Swan, and this is an opportunity for Ascension to start to move in now that you've scattered out Last Resort.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Ascension should be able to get in pretty easily. You're taking advantage of those missiles, that 52-gal's power, and Sheenex being able to just jump in using that QR on the Tri-Slosher, as we're seeing Sheenex taking... There's 2 teams running a lot of QR here, so we're going to see a lot of just picks happening in the background. As we're seeing them just set up in mid here, taking advantage of all the space they were able to claim thanks to the missiles.
So Ascension taking a nice little chunk out of the score there. They gather the lead from Last Resort, and so now it's 58-67, and now Last Resort all of a sudden. So some back and forth here, Nine. This is what you love to see and love to call. So what's it going to take for Ascension or either one of these teams to try and put a lid on it?
Yeah, well, you actually saw a really, really smart move there from Ascension. When they gave up the zone to maintain more overall map control, or a more favorable board, as we sometimes say it, you saw that they lost the zone, but they went up 4-1 as a result for it here. So it's going to give them a chance to actually defend here. Arashi going to move around with that Ultra Stamp to try to close some players out. I believe did find somebody. And now Twig caught, as Nox said earlier, when there's people on both sides of your wall, it's not really a wall anymore. So again, absolute chaos moving through. Arashi moves forward, and on the other side, once again, it's that Tri-Slosher that has gotten behind them as well. So 2 players trading sides of the map. Who knows who is spawning where? Absolute pandemonium thus far.
And that's what you love about Splat Zones. We figured that the action was going to be crazy here on this map, but so far, this has really been a back and forth here. Now it feels like Ascension, they've done a better job, though, Nox, of just kind of securing mid and pushing forward a little bit more. It just feels like Last Resort's kind of getting the crumbs here and there just to stop these prolonged pushes.
Yeah, it does seem like Ascension has a little bit more of a stabilization going on thanks to that Flings Roller just constantly being up and playing that pseudo-anchor role for them, and just allowing them to keep that survivability up as this Splatana Stamper is trying to take out the crab so desperately and not quite able to find the pick. The Splash is probably going to have to jump out or get out of mid here, as it's just the Flings left up for Ascension, but they got to push all the way to 27 there.
And it feels like the mobility of Last Resort is what's really keeping them in this game so far here, Nine. Ascension has got more muscle, but the mobility of Last Resort, let's see if they can put that on display as they try to back Ascension back into their spawn.
Yeah, and this is going to be the important part. Keep an eye on what happens after the missiles come out here. People are firing it. They had snuck Arashi over on that right side to try to push through. Arashi was picked out so cleanly there. Everything relied on them not only getting rid of Arashi, but quickly getting rid of Arashi. No jumps were able to come in and save the situation. And Ascension, you said they've got more muscle, fighting their way out on the defensive side.
Yeah, you feel like the dam really broke there on Last Resort as Ascension just moved in a tidal wave of yellow ink covering the map. Here's Arashi trying to keep things alive with that Ultra Stamp, but there's so many different areas for these shooters to hide in mid in this zone here, Nox, and it makes it tough to sniff them out.
Yeah, there's a lot of little hiding corners, and it's a map where it's really hard to paint the entire zone. It's a huge zone with a giant barrier in the middle of it. It's a pain to paint, and we're seeing the use, and we're seeing that in action right here as it's been stalled out for quite a while with just Twig and this Flingsa now trying to keep it in this stalled out state, waiting for jumps to come in. They don't quite manage to, but Twig is still up there, not quite able to get that trade, but able to keep them from moving forward.
And Last Resort taking care of business against Twig, 4-3 on the map, and now they're just trying to eat into that penalty. Under 30 seconds left. We'll see if they can maintain control of the zone for a meaningful amount of time. They haven't been able to do it yet, but you've got a couple of specials ready to go, but ambushed in the middle of the zone. And again, 9, Ascension just coming in and striking so quickly.
They are, and it's because their formula is so easy to set up for them. They get missiles, and then they push Shinex and Twig forward, and if things go poorly, they've got a Crab to stabilize. Because they require so little to make their win con happen, they can move through, they can attack and fight, and more importantly, Jordan, they can get themselves a victory in Game 3.
Oh, it's just not fair sometimes. Twig with the double splat at the end, and that'll give Ascension a 2-1 lead as we get set for Game 4. And you know, you credit Last Resort for how many times they're able to steal the zone back, Nox, but it felt like whenever Ascension wanted to get the zone, it happened as fast as you snapped your fingers. They were just right there, and it took so much more work for Last Resort to move Ascension, and that was really what it felt like. Just how long could Last Resort hang on against Ascension, and the constant pressure, those missiles combined with how good those frontline players were, was really a lot of pressure for Last Resort.
Yeah, Last Resort's comp, as good as it is against Double Crab, struggles against things that are also skirmishers. They don't know how to deal with it. They're not used to it. And luckily for Ascension, their skirmishers are a little easier to set up and play off of each other a little more fluidly and a little more naturally. It doesn't mean that what Last Resort's doing doesn't work. It's just harder to make work against what Ascension is doing. That 52-gallon Tri-Slosher together, especially with how long Twig and Shinex have played together, just have so much synergy.
And as we get set for tower control here, our fourth and final game mode before we recycle things again, now the comps that you look at, I imagine, do you still go with the double Splatanas here, 9, or do you maybe go for something that's got a little bit more combination that might work better for tower control when you look at the fact that you've got to take out that 52 gal, you know you're going to expect some Crab. It's almost like this balance. You want to play for the Crab, but you can't give up that front line advantage that you might have.
Yeah, it's a great question here, and one that, frankly, I don't have a good answer for because,
you
again,
don't? That's
no,
your
I
job,
don't.
right? No,
Listen,
kidding.
Chara plays like 50 weapons, and there aren't even 50 weapons.
I know.
It's tricky here because Chara does play a number of blasters, but blasters have more or less gone the way of the dodo in the current iteration.
Well, you break my heart by
Splatoon.
saying that.
I do, but a lot of the conventionally strong weapons are not ones that... a lot of the conventionally strong tower control weapons, the sloshing machines, the triple crab scenarios, double crab scenarios, that's not really what Last Resort is doing here. I don't think that this is one of the stronger modes for Splatana Stamper, so we might see maybe the Octobrush come back out here. That's a weapon that can get a lot done, but that's going to be a very intriguing answer that I will be just as surprised as you when we see.
9, you can bury me with my Clash Blaster, okay? Just know that forever. Just know that forever. Me and my little buddy will always be together here. And so, Scorch Gorge is going to be our map here, Nox. Tower control here. We know there's a lot of wide open space, and it feels like that's going to give a lot of opportunity for that 52 gal, as we mentioned before, to try and get into those situations where things might work in an advantage for them. If you are Ascension and you want to put an end to this quickly, what are you thinking about with your loadout, tower control, Scorch Gorge?
I don't think they're going to think to change too much. They might want to switch off the Tri-Slosher, but it's been working out so well for them that I can't see them doing it. I can't imagine too much of a shift. That Toxic Mist and that Inkjet will still be fine here. As much as Tri-Slosher doesn't have the same reach to certain areas as Sloshing Machine, it still is a Slosher on a map with a lot of height differences, so that's never going to hurt. And Tri-Slosher is pretty solid on tower control in general, as Mist will help you make sure that the enemy team can't throw their sub-weapons at you as you're trying to push that tower forward, or as they're trying to push it towards you. And I can't imagine Twig switching off of that 52 gal, and the Flings and Splash are so necessary as stabilizing forces for them.
No, I wouldn't switch off of that either if I were Twig. How nice you are with that in your hands. And so, and really, it just clearing the way for the frontliners is what seems to be the strategy for Ascension here, 9. Like, let that Tri-Slosher, let that 52 gal go to work, pave a way, and then get to the objective after that. All right, tower control, Scorch Gorge, 2-1 advantage, Ascension. Can they pick up win number 3 and then face off against Crush Soda in winners finals? We'll find out. And 9, let's hit you back once again for this loadout.
Yeah, a couple subtle changes from both teams. Evan is going to be switching over off of the Splash-O-Matic to the other weapon that everybody plays, which is that Sloshing Machine. And We don't need to talk about that too much. We know why it's strong here, but on the side of Last Resort, they will be going back to that tent-to-tech splatter shot. So they've got the faster bomb, and they will have the triple ink strike to clear tower and make room if necessary. But they have to earn the right to start their push before we can set up any of that.
Yeah, Mecha picking up a really nice splat there to give the advantage for Last Resort. Tower in the hands of Ascension, and here is Twig trying to retreat just a little bit. Going to go one-on-one here. Trying to take on Arashi. Gets a little bit of help. Arashi in a tough little corner. Arashi trying to stay alive. No luck there as Twig sniffs them out. Triple ink strike coming down. Twig continues to move forward, and Nox again. Twig's mobility and just how they can get in and out of danger as they just get splatted, as I try to give them props. But still, we've seen what Twig has done, and that's why there's such a handful to deal with Nox.
Yeah, Twig's really good at knowing how survivable that 52 gal is and taking full advantage of the great movement it has, as all shooters do. That's one of the biggest selling point of shooters in this game, is that their mobility is so incredible. And now we're seeing Last Resort being able to make a push here, but you gotta wonder for how long.
Last Resort getting through that first checkpoint, building upon that lead. Here's Twig, Killer Whale 5.1 coming out, getting a little bit of help from behind, but so far this tower not being impeded, getting to checkpoint number 2, 9.
Yep, these missiles are the last defensive resource, and they didn't take anybody out. Finally, Swen moves forward and says, all right, I'll do it with my main weapon. Gets 2, actually, with the main weapon, so not just missiles, a wipeout, and holy cow. Jordan, this is what we said in the last time we saw tower control. When you get wiped out at the end, it means the opponent not only has the mental momentum, but they have all of map and all of their specials to work with too, and this could snowball in a hurry.
Really going the way of Ascension. Let's see if they can take advantage of such a golden opportunity. Here's Shinix and that inkjet. Down they go. Ho, ho, what a critical splat by Last Resort to ground all flights. And now Ascension, what looked like just nothing but runway, all of a sudden they have to hit the brakes, and it's Last Resort with Nox arguably an unbelievable defensive stand.
Yeah, they did a really great job playing defense there. It almost seems like Ascension was sort of rushing out of their spawn, not waiting for the right opportunity, but just kind of going directly into mid and just picking any fight they could see rather than making sure they were good strategic positions and fights that they could win, not taking advantage of how well they know how to play off of each other when they're set up.
4-3 for Last Resort. They continue to hold the momentum in this match. Very surprising when you saw what Ascension had laid out in front of them, and now it's just a matter of who's going to take control of mid. It seems elementary, but it's so critical at this point as Ascension continues to push their forces forward. Here's Evan with that sloshing machine. Booyah bomb ready to go. There's a cluster. Oh, down go 2-9, and here's the chance for Ascension.
Yeah, you saw that everybody was fighting Twig on that side, and Evan walked up for 2 of the easiest splats you will ever see, and then gets a 3rd for good measure here. This first checkpoint will finally fall without any real opposition. Arashi is going to try to make a dive and did get the jump onto Shinx, and now everybody else is respawned, so they gave up the checkpoint, but it looks like if they're able to get Swen here, that should be the lead that they still hold, and they do indeed take care of Swen. So once again, quickly with some of this chip damage in a double burst bomb comp, Last Resort has found their footing on the defensive side.
Playing to their name, they face elimination down to the losers bracket. Does Last Resort, if they drop this game, they want to try and force a game 5. Mecha riding the tower, popping off to help out a little bit, but not trying to stray too far. Missiles coming in. That'll force Mecha off at checkpoint number 2, and down goes Storm Hero right near the tower. Nobody near it, so Ascension and the missiles here, Nox, coming in clutch.
Yeah, missiles, while they did get a nerf when this patch came out, still are a very strong special. They just can't be used quite as often as they previously were, but that is a full wipe onto Ascension, as Last Resort is going to be able to get through this checkpoint and really get set up in Ascension spawn and kind of just get the lay of the land.
And 9, you talked about the position Ascension had earlier. Last Resort, you really can't script it better than that. Getting through the second checkpoint, a wipeout. Shara going down, but a little bit of a trade. And now they're at 14. Under 30 seconds left. They're still threatening. Ascension really going to have to work hard here if they want to try and take this. Last Resort trying to get that knockout punch with 15 seconds left. Tower riding back. What are you thinking about if you're Last Resort in this situation, 9? How do you make sure you close things down?
I mean, you have to play perfect and you have to check your flanks. You know that Arashi is going to be diving in with that wiper. Twig goes ahead and takes care of Arashi, probably the best weapon equipped to do it. So they've at least got themselves back to mid here. They're going to have a couple specials to work forward, but at this point, every small mistake becomes so magnified. And there comes Arashi again. Evan needs to clean him up quickly. Will they be able to do so? Arashi escapes. This is valuable time and valuable defense towards the front. Shinex goes down. Arashi is coming from behind. Now has the Ultra Stamp. And again, all of these eyes being back means there was nobody to assist Twig. This is how you break down a push the right way. Last Resort takes the tower control game.
Yeah, Nine, you did an excellent job as Last Resort forces the game 5. Arashi flanking on the backside, Nox, really was just enough of a distraction. It brings me back to like Vegeta, Dragon Ball Z versus Cell vibes here for the most part. Just on the backside, putting that pressure did not allow Ascension to be comfortable in that final push.
Yeah, flanks like that are something that's so important, especially against comps like Ascensions, where they're used to being the ones pulling off the flanks. They're used to being the ones creating the distraction, especially against comps that have just been machines and crabs, which don't really rely on flanks or anything sneaky. They're just kind of like, well, we're good. We'll just win the fight. We'll have the map control. We'll win the fight. Whereas Ascension's comps do rely more on getting Shinex into those sneaky places as Twig is getting a lot of the attention, and then as Twig's doing that, Shinex is able to get the picks, or vice versa. They're used to being the team doing that, not having to be the one reacting to having that done to them. And so they got really distracted by that flank by Arashi when they probably could have ignored it for a bit and not needed to stress about it too much and ensured that path forward on the tower was clear.
You know, Nine, a couple games ago you said there's the seen threat and the unseen threat, and sometimes just being enough of a distraction is all you need to do, whether or not you pick up splats. And that was a textbook example. It just felt like your attention was so diverted if you were Ascension when you need to be laser focused on moving the tower. You just couldn't do that when you had Arashi right there.
Right, and Arashi on the Splatana Wiper is, again, one of the most survivable weapons in the game. It is so incredibly mobile and can throw out little damaging hitboxes as it moves back. So every second that they spent trying to get rid of Arashi meant that there was going to be that much more that Twig had to do on the front side. And hey, we've been saying Twig's name the entire set. Even Twig's not going to be able to win a 3v1 for very long. That's just not how it goes, no matter how good you are at it. So Arashi, again, running quick respawn, was more than happy. Even if that had gotten taken out quickly, there was going to be another opportunity for Arashi to do the same thing twice. Only needed it once, but that's how you play to the strengths of your team and what it's best at, and especially when you have a composition like this.
All right, I think I got lucky last time, and the 5th map was Inkblot Art Academy. I think we have Inkblot Art Academy coming up again. Maybe the blind squirrel finds a nut once again, but when you look at this, we're going to have a much smaller map than what we had at Scorched Gorge. Everyone loves it, and it's going to be splat zones here, Nox. And so we saw Ascension pick up the victory last time in splat zones in Eeltail Alley. What do you expect to see from both these comps this map in splat zones?
I think I expect to see the crab coming back out from Ascension here.
Right?
I expect them to keep Shinex on that Tri-Slosher, and obviously Twig on that 52 gal. That's not changing. They're not going to get rid of their missiles. I expect to see a lot of Twig trying to move up onto their plat with Shinex trying to help out, doing that, obviously. Yeah, just a lot of the same out of them. It's a very consistent thing for them, and it's a strategy that works especially well in zones where a lot of it is just getting that displacement and playing that retake game.
And Nine, along with the crab simulator game that'll be happening during splat zones here, what else do teams have to make sure to do once you get that push? Because we've seen teams effectively lock down the zone, but because of just how close it is to spawn and the elevation, it can be difficult to get one of those quick dubs here.
It really will be, and what makes that so difficult is the understanding that the opponent is going to be trying to push up onto your plat area whenever they take control. But because the opponent knows that, oftentimes they'll pull back very quickly to make sure that you can't get that. So you need to, by way of a special or enough chip damage or somebody throwing subs all over from the middle, you need to find a way to get up there very cleanly. If you throw somebody up on mid, it's not going to be enough. You have to have a little sustainability to your attack, and we'll see what the teams have in store for us.
Ascension, Last Resort. Game 5. Winner moves on to winners finals to take on Crush Soda. Nox, loadouts. What do we see here?
We are seeing Ascension sticking with their tried and true comp, and we are seeing the T-Tech coming back out here for Last Resort along with that double Splatana as Evan is able to pop this crab tank within the first 15 seconds of the game.
I was about to say, that was some raw crab. 13 seconds. Didn't really cook too quickly there. I mean, you blinked and already it was coming out halfway through the special, but that's one way to do it. As Ascension strikes early, they take the lead. You see the zone in full control. Now Evan trying to move around the left-hand side, not quite ready to go up that ramp, but this is a very impressive opening punch here from Ascension, Nine.
Yeah, they did a great job. You saw that Twig was actually waiting on the bottom side of the screen for Arashi to jump out, knowing that that was where the flank was going to come from. Some mid-set adaptation was able to put that one to bed, and on the other side, the other two frontliners know the assignment to attack. A huge shot there from Evan. And Jordan, I'm worried they're not going to have many more opportunities to get their footing, much less take this zone. Look, they're already sharking at all the major spots.
Nope, not too much sand left in the hourglass here. Something's going to have to give very quickly for Last Resort, or they will be swimming down loser's bracket. And it looks like Ascension, right out the gate, sprints ahead and just claims victory. Dominant performance by Ascension, and they close out Game 5 and move on to winners finals. And Nox, it happened just as quickly as we saw the crab tank come out. Ascension, you really won't see it go much quicker than that at this level when it comes to splat zones.
Yeah, you really won't. That was 100-0 hold with no interruptions. It really can't go much faster than that. The crab tank definitely played a pivotal role in that, and they all just moved so well off of each other, taking full advantage of their specials. And really just an incredible pick there with the crab tank that we saw out of Evan.
Yeah, it felt like Ascension didn't want any more drama at this point here. So let's take a look at the updated bracket as we get set for winners finals. 2 thrilling semifinals, by the way. 5 games each, but it's Crush Soda versus Ascension to see who will punch their first ticket for a trip to Boston. More details on that at a later date. But when we come back here shortly, we will bring you that matchup. Later on, you will see Sayonara and Last Resort going off against one another. So as you take an early sneak peek at this matchup here, Nine, between Crush Soda and Sayonara, excuse me, Crush Soda and Ascension, your thoughts on these two?
Yeah, this is going to be really exciting because you have the comp that is entirely built around the crab and sloshing machine meta with Wave on the E-leader as well, versus a comp that is built without having to rely on that, trying to have a little bit more speed and not have to rely as much on their specials. So if there was ever a time to make the argument that your philosophy is correct, what better stage could you ask for to do it on?
All right, 2 teams that were pushed to the brink but eventually overcame their opponents to find their way in winners finals. We'll find out who wins. Crush Soda, Ascension, when we come back on this break during the Splatoon 3 Splatsville Showdown, event number 2.
The Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass DLC. Start your engines for 8 courses in Wave 3. Maple Treeway. Rainbow Road. Boo Lake. Berlin Byways. Rock Mountain. Peach Gardens. London Loop. And Merry Mountain. the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass. 8 courses at a time will release over 6 waves as paid DLC for the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe game. That's 48 courses, zooming in by the end of 2023. Wave 3 launches December 7th on the Nintendo Switch system. Race on these courses at no additional cost with a paid Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack membership. Or purchase the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass DLC on its own.
And welcome back to the Splatoon 3 Splatsville Showdown event number 2. Jordan Kent here with 9 and Nox as we get set for winners finals. We had 2 thrilling all the way to game 5s in our 2 semifinals here. But let's go ahead and check out our bracket and see who will be facing off to punch their first ticket for a trip to Boston. Crushed Soda versus Ascension and Nox. You were excited to see both of these teams go toe-to-toe to see who will come out on top.
Yeah, it should be a really interesting matchup because Ascension really doesn't run what people are used to seeing right now. They have that singular crab, but the crab is more used for stabilization than for trying to create forced pushes. Whereas with Crushed Soda, we're seeing a lot of just, well, we have 2 crabs, we have 2 machines, we can just move forward. There doesn't need to be a ton of coordination. There still is a ton of it, but it's a different style of coordination than what we're seeing out of Ascension.
Yeah, just a ton. Not a ton, of course. It takes a little bit more time. Let's go ahead and check out the rules here. As just a reminder for everyone joining us. Again, higher seed will choose the mode. Lower seed will choose the stage. It's best of 5. The losing team will choose the stage. Winning team will choose the mode, which is huge because that's probably determined the winner in Game 5 in these last 2 semifinals. There are your game modes. There's your map list. Flounder Heights, Brine Water Springs, Eeltail Alley, Inkblot Art Academy, and Scorch Gorge. And so, 9, it is interesting that Nox brings up with Crush Soda. It's pretty straightforward, their strategy. We're going to try and overpower you, overcrab you with 2 of those bad boys out there on the map. However, for Ascension, we've seen that when things are dialed in with them and they're really clicking on all cylinders, they have put together some impressive victories, including that Game 5 win to make it here that was over in basically 60 seconds.
Yeah, the one big outlier in this set between these two teams is going to be on Crush Soda, Wave on the E-Later here. That is a factor. Swen has played and is a very accomplished Charger player. But right now, I don't think you mess with anything if you're Ascension here. You don't try to match Charger v Charger, but that's the one thing that Ascension has not run into thus far. A Charger, and certainly not a Charger of Wave's caliber.
And Nox, we're going to get that game mode repeated here one more time as we get set for Game 1 in just a second. But what really sounds exciting is that we're going to have splat zones on Flounder Heights. And so you've said it before, Flounder's interesting in the fact that there's nowhere to hide, but at the same time you can ambush from everywhere. This is the first time we've seen splat zones, Flounder Heights, at least in today's event. What do you expect to see here?
Definitely expect to see at least a crab on each side, as we would expect. There's a chance that we see 2 on the side of Crush Soda. Just because it's Flounder, I'm not willing to be 100% on that, because there's only a couple spots you can crab from. Having 2 of them out at a time is less helpful. And for Ascension, definitely going to see Sheenex on that Tri-Slosher still. It's so good on a map like this. The Toxic Mist can stall out that Grates area over mid so well. Inkjet can cover so many angles, and you can get so much height off of it that it's very easy to just kind of control where you want to control. And obviously, Twig on that 52 gal able to also control that bridge area really well. They're going to be able to hold the high ground really well, as long as they can get to it first.
And that's
the
going to
E-Later
be
might make that a challenge.
fascinating as well as you bring that up, Nox. Holding down the high ground, you've got that great. So many different ways to approach it here as we get set. Crush Soda versus Ascension. Let's find out who's going to be our first winners final. Best of 5. Let's tip it off in 9. You know what I'm going to ask you. What have we got here, my friend?
Absolutely. Too slow for the E-Leader, we have said here. It is going to be a sloshing machine, the double slosh, double splash composition that we are so used to seeing. And Goss immediately going and taking a couple down. This is an entirely different beast than what Ascension ran up against first. And I will say the one thing about the Splash-O-Matic on this map, I'm not sure you could create a better main weapon and sub-weapon composition. So even though the Crab maybe not be as strong here as it is somewhere else, the whole rest of the weapon's dang good too.
And of course, you've got the dual zones here. So Crush Soda with the early 13-point lead. And right now, they've got the 4-3 advantage on the map. But here we go, Nox. You start to see that Crush Soda yellow wave of ink make their way on the Ascension side of the map.
Yeah, we definitely see that Ascension has a hard time against other fast-playing teams. They don't always quite know what to do with it. The game they lost to Last Resort was because of how fast Last Resort was able to play and how much they were able to just kind of get Ascension into a more scattered mindset where they were less focused in on what they wanted to accomplish. And that seems to be happening here again with Crush Soda.
And to Nox's point here, 9, we're seeing Twig super jump back to base, whereas before Twig was living on the other team's side of the map, and now it's Crush Soda that has just started to dominate and steamroll this game. At this point here, 9, it really feels like Ascension's up against one.
They really are. They're going to try to move in here, and Kyo was able to take out Twig, and that's a big splat to get in that situation because it means that the main defensive resource will be gone. Now Goss moves forward to try to attack, gets a trade, but survived long enough that everybody else was able to jump in, and right now Ascension's going to need a miracle just to hold this zone.
And it just feels like Ascension is in a completely different orbit than the second zone. They can get a little bit of that purple ink in the first one, but they are still being pushed so far out from the second one, and they don't really have tremendous range as well, too, to try and get there. And so Crush Soda just trying to close this out here, Nox, and it looks like they're going to with no problem whatsoever. Crush Soda taking the first game, and we're starting to see how Crush Soda, that double crab comp, and how fast they were moving. You pointed it out, Nox. That was the difference in this one, just the mobility for Crush Soda.
Yeah, they definitely had so much mobility that Ascension just didn't seem to know how to react to it. And they couldn't quite manage to get any kind of flanks going, which is what they really need with that Tri-Slosher on that map, to get the Tri-Slosher, for example, to flank into that right zone and hope that Crush Soda doesn't notice and just create that opening so that Twig can just hold that mid space on Grates. But that being said, the the machines do so well at fighting that 52 gal. They can go over the wall, they can go under the wall with the grates there. It's not an easy fight for Twig at all.
Yeah, Nine, it felt like the undulation and different levels of Flounder Heights just makes things very difficult for that 52 gal. And of course, that Tri-Slosher is going to be outranged by a lot of different weapons. And so you don't think of changing the comp. It just seemed like this was not a great matchup for Ascension in this particular game.
I agree entirely, and credit goes here to Crush Soda for the gameplay. And if you roll the tape back and you watch it, you will see that Kyo was standing on the same ledge on the left side that was just below that grating pretty much the entire game. That gave Kyo an eyesight on if that flank that Nox mentioned was going to happen, and if not, we'll just continue to throw some fizzy bombs, and if they come and charge at me, I'm a sloshing machine. I want you to charge after me. Went there, moved back to give the team some jumps, moved back up there again, and again, if you can't get rid of that one defender, you've got no hope of a sustained zone hold.
All right, Nox, we're going to Tower Control and Inkblot Art Academy. We've seen this before. Now this feels like a map that might be more tailor-made to that comp for Ascension, where you won't have to worry about trying to stay so far away from the objective here. How does Ascension try to play to their advantage here when you've got Tower Control and what you're really trying to work with?
I think they just need to remember that they have a little more time than they've been thinking they have. They were kind of just rushing in. They weren't taking the time to really paint anywhere. They weren't checking anything. It seems like they were just kind of diving in, which is not usually an ideal situation to put yourself in. But here, there's less spaces to check, which will make that easier for them. And also, it's a way more stable map for a weapon like a 52 gal, where you can take advantage of more corners to set up your wall around and just really ensure that space that you want to have.
Tower Control, Inkblot Art Academy. Crush Soda has taken game one. They need 2 more to go ahead and claim the first spot on a round trip to Boston. And Nox, we're going to swing it your way this time. What do we see from these initial weapon loadouts?
We are seeing a switch over to Machine instead of Splash, which makes a lot of sense for this map. A lot of ledges to play around. Of course, Kyo sticking on that Machine, the E-Leader coming out, which will apply a ton of pressure to Ascension, but as I say that, Crush Soda has gone 2 down. Sheenek's able to take out a 3rd, and it's just that E-Leader left up, as Ascension's really just able to claim the map here.
And Ascension here taking that first checkpoint of the tower, and as you mentioned, Nox is covering so much of the map, and now it's a matter of Crush Soda trying to get back on the right foot, take control of things, and get a little bit more map control. And at this point here, Nine, no issues whatsoever for Ascension getting to the second checkpoint.
No, but Twig going down could be a big deal. Can they hold? They do to get past that second checkpoint. Hold on a moment. Will they be able to retreat their last member? No, they will not. And oh no, I'm getting deja vu. This is looking exactly like what happened to Sayonara. They got wiped out so quickly, and Crush Soda was able to set up perfectly as a result. But Ascension has one thing that Sayonara did not, and that is Twig.
And Twig picking up splats left and right just like that, erases 3 members of Crush Soda off the board. So a huge momentum stopper by Ascension, and now they are back in attack mode and moving forward, baby, as they are trying to plant their flag in Crush Soda's side of the map. Here comes that Crabber trying to run around and already taken out. And so Crush Soda, they've got the defense down here, but how do they try to get a push here? Because right now, Ascension is applying all sorts of pressure, Nox.
Yeah, Ascension just doing an incredible job of keeping those jumps in. Evan just trying to maintain that tower as Twig has that 52 gal just dancing around. Sheenek's keeping these jumps in. Twig does finally go down, but they got to push all the way to 25 there. And that's 2 minutes of the game down without Crush Soda really being able to do anything, which is a very significant chunk of time within Splatoon. Doesn't mean they don't have time to do anything still, of course, but as long as Ascension keeps getting pushes like that, it means Crush Soda can't. And as I say that, yet another member of Crush Soda goes down, kind of leaving them in a staggered situation.
So Crush Soda, as you mentioned, a little bit staggered. Booyah Bomb coming in for Ascension. 4-3 on the map for Crush Soda, under 3 minutes left. But right now, Ascension with a sizable lead. And, you know, really, Nine, where should Crush Soda start to find their attack points? It feels like they have been pretty scattered in the first couple of minutes of this game.
Yeah, well, you can see that Thunder and Kyo are both on this left side. They understand that as long as they can control that side, they're going to get opportunities from the left. And finally, their patience is rewarded as Kyo's going to get it. And Kyo getting the picks is a big deal, but these jumps coming to that position that Kyo was in might end up being an even bigger deal, because that means the attack is going to be moved forward. And now Wave moves up, moves back a little bit. Goss needed that paint in order to get this crab up, and this is getting dangerous in a hurry.
Second checkpoint for Crush Soda. They are trying to just make their way all the way back into this game, and now it's 4-2. This is a dangerous situation for Ascension. Crab on the bottom applying pressure to spawn. Tower moving to the third one. Missile's going to try and spread things out. They don't pick up any splats. And now Crush Soda has taken the lead with under 2 minutes left. And here is Crush Soda. They are making their way. They want the knockout. They want to send Ascension to the canvas, and they do so. So Crush Soda knocks. How about the way they flipped it around and reversed it to go ahead and pick up this win? And really, the double wipeouts seem to change the complete complexion of this game.
Yeah, I think Crush Soda just does such a great job of knowing when their opportunities are. They know exactly how to capitalize on them, whereas Ascension has had a really hard time on defense. They don't really know how to recover once they are put in that position. Their pushes are so explosive, but as we've seen from them a lot, they don't know what to do when they can't find their footing. It seems like they just don't know how to break back in against comps that are just shoving them backwards constantly.
And so now it's 2-0 for Crush Soda here, 9, and what we've seen is really patience from them. A dominant victory in Game 1 here. They get knocked back a little bit, but all it takes is a coordinated push to where they were able to just really apply so much pressure, right, on the spawn of Ascension and really just continue to use those specials, that crab, and the timing of everything. Now as we get set for Game 3, what's the answer for Ascension at this point? How do you try to pick up a win here and stay alive to try and force a Game 4?
It's hard, and I'm not sure that you can rely on the map and mode screen or the weapon select screen to find the answers that you need. You had legitimate chances in that last game, but the way that Crush Soda was able to move to the parts of the map that they wanted to control, and when you asked me in that game, what does Crush Soda need to do? I told you, well, it's what they're doing right now. They just need to win a couple fights and for Ascension to fall into the trap. They did. They got that cycle started. So if there's anything for Ascension, take a deep breath. Realize, as Nox said earlier, you have more time than you think, because once that boulder gets rolling, you're not going to be able to stop it.
So we have Rainmaker on Brine Water Springs, Nox, and this will be fascinating because, again, this is an opportunity, if you are Crush Soda, to really move forward with an objective. They were so effective with that on tower control. What's going to be the game plan if you are Ascension? You're trying to stay alive. This is your map. This is your mode. How do you try and pick up the win here?
I think a lot of it's going to focus a little bit more on survivability. They have not been doing a great job of making sure that they're staying up in these situations, and they're going to want to make sure that they are moving people forward in front of the Rainmaker. The tower or Rainmaker can't go on their own. They need to be protected to some degree, and that is even more so the case with Rainmaker, as they will kind of be stuck in the back, acting as a pseudo-anchor. Well, not a pseudo-anchor. They are just an anchor the moment you pick up that Rainmaker. That's what you're stuck doing.
Will they be able to anchor it enough, though, to victory? We'll see here. A chance for Crush Soda to get the 3-0 sweep. And 9, what do we got here, my friend?
Well, they've gone back to the old double-double here, and no surprises from Crush Soda going with that anytime that they feel that Wave is not going to be able to contribute if the game is too fast. This is what you're going to see, and of course Ascension going with what brought him here.
So Evan with that early rock grab, as we like to say, just right off the bat, able to get a little bit of pressure there, but doesn't really turn the tide too much. It's now 3-3 on the map, and nearly a trade, but that's going to be a key splat there for Goss, as Goss is able to now swim forward and clear the way for this first checkpoint. Goss moving to the left, and just like that, those little victories, Nox, we're able to stay alive, get to your special, and now get a crab on their side of the map. Those are the things that change a game just like that.
Yeah, that put Crush Soda in such an advantageous state that even though the missiles from Ascension are coming out, they're not going to be able to get a ton of value off of them. They're not going to be able to move forward the way they want to with them. And without being able to do that, a lot of their game plan falls apart. If they can't move forward off of those missiles, they don't have an easy way to get Sheenex or Twig in to create those distractions that they rely on. So the stabilization doesn't matter quite as much as Sheenex goes down to some incredible grab shots.
Yeah, how about the trade that we just saw there? Special versus special, and less of a trade and more of a big-time advantage for Crush Soda as they take out the Inkjet, but that gives them a decent lead, 68-0. You figure 9, you would have had a little bit more bite after that initial open that we saw from Crush Soda.
Yeah, a little bit of meat left on the bone there. I think they were really trying to gear up and hope that they could get something big going on. Goss does jump away right before hitting the water, so that is going to be special preserved. But if I'm Ascension, I am patting myself on the back right now. There were so many ways that that could have gone poorly for you. To keep it to basically just a checkpoint and some change, not so bad for them. Although suddenly They may have patted themselves on the back a little too hard. They are in danger of another push going against them.
Twig picking up a splat. 4-3 on the map, has special ready to go, but now you've got the Rainmaker in the hands of Crush Soda as they build upon their lead. So Twig was putting in work, but had to super jump into the action. Booyah Bomb coming up. That'll force Ascension back a little bit. Evan trying to provide a little bit of crustacean security here with that crab, but no dice, as it is still Crush Soda a sizable lead. Finally taking the Rainmaker here, trying to get on the board, Nox.
Yeah, they were able to get Crush Soda into a 2-down situation there, and they're now able to at least keep the Rainmaker in mid for a minute as a crab comes out and is putting a ton of pressure, able to take them out. But that allowed time for Twig to respawn, start getting back into mid. They're starting to be able to set up a bit here, and they're looking for opportunities to create more space to move forward. But as I say that, Twig goes down, which kind of limits all of their options. Their game plans rely around their Flimsa having missiles and Twig being alive. They don't have a great way to set up without that, as Sheenex is trying to get the pick on Gauss here.
Yeah, Sheenex and Gaz going crab to tentacle. They finally trade, but it's almost like a win if you can stay alive that long against the crab, 9.
Yeah, great work, and all the while as that fight was going on, Twig moved up, and here's the moment. The MVP of Ascension thus far might have an opportunity to make this work, was able to get Kyo with the special. They move forward, they will take the lead and a little bit more. Twig goes forward and Swen jumps and swims all the way to the 22-point marker, but you knew eventually there was going to be an opportunity for Twig to show why we have given them so much praise over the course of it, and a great showing thus far.
So Ascension with the lead, nice little comeback. Now it's up to Crush Soda, see if they can answer the call. They're just one game away from claiming that first spot on a trip to Boston, trying to send Ascension down to the losers bracket. And this is, again, a highly contested final that we're seeing here. Both teams winning their best of 5 to get in here. Missiles coming in. That's going to create a little bit of havoc. And now Crush Soda with the Rainmaker. They're starting to threaten on the other side here, Nox. All of a sudden, the defense switches to offense.
Yeah, Crush Soda starting to be able to make a big push here. Sheenex able to get 2 there, but they're still, that is now a wipe onto Ascension, so Crush Soda should be able to get lead here as long as they move quickly, and they are able to, trying to get the knockout, should be able to here. Not quite. Sheenex able to take that out, as Ascension now needs to fully knock out in order to win this game.
Oh, the dunk was blocked, but with just over 30 seconds left, Ascension's going to have to move quickly here. They've got the Inkjet ready to go. Sheenex moving forward with that, trying to push the opponent back. No dice on picking up a splat quite yet. Under 30 seconds. Ascension, middle of the map, facing all sorts of ink coming in left and right, trying to stay alive. For Crush Soda here, 9, you know exactly what's coming. You just got to hold your ground. And now with under 10 seconds left, Crush Soda trying to hang on and pick up this victory. Ascension threatening. Here is Ascension. They're going to move this thing into overtime. Booyah Bomb going to force Swin back. They still have 3-3 on the map. And down goes Swin, and Crush Soda with a remarkable comeback. They're able to do just enough down the stretch to pick up the win, and a 3-0 sweep at this moment. And very impressive here as you look at this, Nox. How about Crush Soda? Just that final push, the patience that this team can be known for is enough to get the win.
Yeah, Crush Soda doing a great job of just applying a ton of pressure, and Kyo showing how stable he is, and the fact that he's like, I've been here a million times before. I want to win this yet again. And he does. It's Kyo. He's very familiar with these high pressure situations and very comfortable in them at this point. He's won more majors than I can think of off the top of my head. I believe it's 7 NA Opens or something like that.
It's something like that. In fact, the win was so amazing that 9 has dematerialized at the moment, and he will be back here soon as he has ascended to the heavens to try and break down what we just saw from Crush Soda. But again, they pick up the victory. That prize pack is theirs. We will see them in Boston, and so an excellent job by them. Let's check out the bracket one more time in just a little bit here. We will get to it, but what stands out to me is just, again, Crush Soda, they can win by dominating at the get-go. We saw that on Flounder Heights at the beginning in Splat Zones. And then on Tower Control, they were able to force a comeback and really dominate down the stretch and get the knockout. Then they are able to just, with a little bit of time left, pick up this win, and you check out the bracket, and the results speak for themselves. Crush Soda, 3-0 sweep over a very talented Ascension squad. That means 2 things. Number 1, Crush Soda, we'll see you in Boston. Number 2, we have got some unbelievable matchups coming up here in the losers bracket. All these teams have gone to Game 5, so we will go ahead, step aside, and bring you Sayonara versus Last Resort when we come back on the Splatoon 3 Splatsville Showdown, event number 2.
Thanks for swinging by. I'm here with a secret to golf in the Nintendo Switch sports game. That makes me your grandcaddy. Golf is all about smooth moves, so you need to focus on the feel of the game. Grab your Joy-Con controller, line up your shot, and let it fly. Don't let the competition or hazards tee you off. Once you've got the basics, Junior's getting there. Give Survival Golf a try. It's an online matchup where everyone plays at once. Competition is fierce, and only the folks with the fewest strokes move on to the next round. With both online and offline modes, there's always golf to play, no matter the time of day. So, when are you gonna put your skills to the test with your family? Golf and Nintendo Switch Sports is available now. Rated E10 Plus for everyone 10 and up.
And welcome back to the Splatoon 3 Splatsville Showdown event number 2. I'm Jordan Kent. Joining me is Nox, and unfortunately 9, well, a crab tank looks like took out his router, so he's working on getting things back up again. But we're getting set for losers finals, so let's go ahead and check out the bracket and see which two teams will be facing off as we try to punch the other ticket on a trip to Boston. Sayonara versus Last Resort, and this is very fascinating because of the expectations, Nox, for both of these teams here.
Yeah, Sayonara was expected to really come in and win this. It was not, it's very much an upset for Crush Soda to have taken them out in winners semis there. Sayonara viewed as second only to Starburst, and since Starburst isn't playing, it seemed like it should have been their tournament to win. But now they're in losers semis against Last Resort. Last Resort, a team that we've seen a lot of, runs very unconventional comps. It would be very cool to see them get this upset, but it would be quite a bit of a surprise considering how previous encounters have gone.
Yeah, it's fascinating because Sayonara took Crush Soda to 5 games in winter semis, and Last Resort took Ascension to 5 games, but ultimately Crush Soda sweeps Ascension. So you wonder if that was a sign of how talented Sayonara really is. Let's check out the rules one more time as we get set for losers semis. No major changes, of course. You see who chooses the mode, who chooses the stage, and how that changes after the first game. And then your map list. You've got Flounder Heights, Brinewater Springs, Eeltail Alley, Inkblot Art Academy, and Scorch Gorge. Another note, the same mode cannot be chosen more than 2 times during a match, and you go through all 4 game modes first. And so, as we get set here, Sayonara and Leafy and .Q is very impressive as far as what they are able to do. And I believe, 9, you were able to find a comp to take care of the crab tank that took out your router. Is that true? Are you with us here?
I did, and it took every bit of energy that I had.
Had to use all them specials, right?
Yeah, every special, 8 specials coming out each time. Yeah, I figured it out. But you're going to have to wait a couple weeks and potentially, you know, further patches down the road for your answer. I won't spoil it. I did have to travel through time to find it out, but we'll let the world find that out in real time.
Well, you know, it's just not the same without you, my friend. So we'll go ahead and get set for this first matchup between Sayonara and Last Resort and 9, since we've had some extended time without you. I'm going to go right back to you. Rainmaker, Scorch Gorge, what do you anticipate seeing between these two squads here, my friend?
Yeah, well, I would say the first time that we saw this showed you exactly how people like to play it here and what they're going to shoot for here. That first checkpoint can be very pesky and tricky to get through, but once you get to it, the points do start to fly. The flanks, anything that you can do to slow down the momentum of your opponent as the other players fire at the Rainmaker from the front side, is typically how you'll see teams opt to defend here. It's how they attack that I think is a little more interesting.
All right, there's that guitar riff. It means we're getting set for some action. We're going to make it rain between Sayonara, Last Resort, Nox. Tell us about the weapons that these players on these teams chose to bring into this match.
We are seeing that classic double Splatana coming out of Last Resort, and we are seeing .Q on that splatter scope, which is not always a weapon we see a ton of, but we have seen .Q picking it a lot on this map, and it is great for Rainmaker here. And of course, double splashes out on each team. Nothing too surprising there.
And 9, you pointed that out also with .Q. Why do you go with that particular splatter shot on this, splatter scope on this map when you look at how good you've been with the Eden leader?
Yeah, I mean, Inkvac is the long and the short answer here. When you know that you have to go down a very narrow pathway and the opponent knows, why not go with a special to prevent your opponent from doing anything about it? And I think it should also be noted, it's got a very fast bomb. That Splat Bomb, very, very good at continuing from pressure even at a distance.
Rainmaker in the hands of Sayonara, it's going to be Last Resort that moves forward with that Rainmaker, and now Sun is able to apply a little bit of pressure here, picks up a couple of splats, so the sun shining bright here early, a minute into this one. And Nox, as you look at what you need to do with those 2 Splatanas, it feels like you have to continue to keep the other team guessing and make yourself a very difficult target to hit. The survivability is what you point out.
Yeah, Splatanas are all about playing that survivability role. They do a similar job to Tetras of relying on that high mobility they have and high, pretty decent damage, where they're just trying to outmaneuver you, outmechanic you, and put you in an awkward position where you are now stranded away from the rest of your team so that you can either be easily picked off by another one of their teammates, or so that they can easily pick you off themselves.
Last Resort has made it to the first checkpoint. However, plenty of time left to go here. The advantage on the map currently to Sayonara as far as players, but now it's going to be Sayonara, their chance to play a little offense here, 9.
Yeah, and actually, Arashi going into fight there actually sort of negated a crab that could have moved up into a really, really strong position. So they should be able to equalize and stabilize, and they have done so, taking the Rainmaker out very quickly. So once again, we noted the right flank at the right time with a weapon that's got enough survivability, stops these crab loops from ever getting set up.
Got a crab ready to go for Sayonara. Let's see if they can deploy that in time. They do. They pick up a couple of splats, and oh, they get 3 splats, and now it's going to be Last Resort that's going to be on the back tentacle, and Sayonara has got open runway to get to that first checkpoint. They do, and now what do they do with it next here, Nox? That's going to be the big question.
Yeah, they're probably going to try and use this vacuum to clear out some space for them after Q hits a couple shots. Now that vacuum's coming out, getting them a lot of free points without a ton of risk involved. On the other hand, Splatanas are one of the few weapons that can do damage through vacuum. Their direct hits, along with like roller directs, can just hit you through the vacuum and take you out.
So the Splatanas doing what they need to, just shredding objects left and right, fighting specials toe-to-toe, but it's going to be Sayonara with the early lead. That'll force Last Resort here 9 to play a little bit more offensively here as they try to move along the right-hand side of the map, and you saw that ink mat go out and be deployed. Storm Hero, what's your role here as you try to move forward and make some ground for your teammates?
Well, do exactly that. Move forward as the specials come through, and Issa doing a great job tossing that Booyah Bomb down to at least get a trade for the damage here, but I'm really impressed with the way that Last Resort has created some space in front of them there. Leafy's Crab really the only defensive resource that they've got for a time. You can see Arashi trying to take the eyes of Q away from the other members as they try to go through. They waited through that crab, now have a crab of their own, and I think that there's some points to be had here if they play their cards right.
So Last Resort, they're going to have to be patient, find these opportunities, threatening right there, but down goes their Rainmaker carry, but quickly they pop the shield. They're trying to move forward. They snatch the lead, and all of a sudden, Last Resort has put the pressure on Sayonara with just over a minute left here. And for Sayonara, they're clustered near spawn here, Nox. They got to get out of there soon.
Yeah, and with 3 down, they should be able to start making moves forward here. Painting over is noticing the super jump, going to probably be able to take that out pretty quickly as they're able to start painting up mid, start reclaiming this space, as there's a minute left in the game, but a minute lasts a long time in Splatoon. A minute is more than enough time for them to try and get this lead, especially since they do have specials at the ready and 4 players up.
Sun has been putting in work if you've been watching here at 9. We just saw 3 splats in a row, and these are the one-on-ones that Sayonara needs in order to fortify their offensive position and move forward. Now you've got 30 seconds left. You've got 2 specials. What are they trying to accomplish here with such precious time left?
Well, they did what they needed to early on. They took out Arashi very, very quickly. That's the defensive force that has broken things open, and it gave Sun room to move up. Sun, who has been the MVP thus far, will move forward. We have a crab tank out on the other side. Arashi had enough time to get back in with just 10 seconds. And this could be it right here. This crab's not going to be firing at the Rainmaker shield. They might not even get the pop in time to grab it. They do have somebody there, but it's going to be Last Resort who sneaks through with the grab. And folks, that is why you run quick respawn. We said at the very start of that push, they took out Arashi. That's what they had to do. And yet Arashi respawned in time to go back after the Rainmaker and close it out.
And the defense from Last Resort that we saw down the stretch there, Nox, that's what stands out to me. I mean, really, if you're Sayonara, you got your players in the position you want them to, but just being able to constantly get into that fight over and over and over again, like Nine said, you kept that pressure going defensively, and it was just too much at those last couple of seconds here. And Last Resort, you really have to applaud them for stepping up and picking up a huge win to take a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, not a win that is very expected from Last Resort.
No.
Definitely a great job of just knowing that they have that QR to take the risks on the Splatanas, while the Splashes know that they need to stay alive so that the Splatanas can do that. Because if they don't stay alive, it's just a very bad snowball effect of, well, they don't even have QR. But so it's just a very bad snowball if the Splashes go down along with the Splatanas.
And again, the quick respawn is just really what helped them out down the stretch here, 9. And so now you've got this victory. I'm sure you've got to be feeling good about yourselves that you just went toe-to-toe with the team that many people feel is one of the top 2 teams in North America. And so we have Clam Blitz coming up in Eel Tail Alley. And so, again, these loadouts, these Splatanas versus what we're going to see from Sayonara. How do you see these 2 squads going face-to-face here, 9?
Yeah, this will be an intriguing one because in the last set, when we saw Eeltail Alley come out from Sayonara, they really didn't change their comp that much from what we actually saw in this last game. Q was staying on the charger, and I believe it was the Splat charger and not even the E-leader. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if we see these two teams opt to bring in almost the exact same composition that we saw in that last game.
Yeah, and it really feels like Nox for those Splatanas, their mobility, the ability also, you keep saying it, and it really is something that's important with so many crabs. The object shredding that we're seeing from them, it really changes some of the strategies that you might think of offensively if you're Sayonara, if you can't keep any of your resources out on the map.
Yeah, especially since the Splatana Stamper has that Zipcaster to just get to wherever the crab is, too. As much as crab is a special that can sit back and do a lot of damage, when there's a weapon that can destroy your crab, along with just getting to it no matter where it is, it makes it way harder to try and use it as efficiently as you usually would. It's way more intimidating because you know that you could get taken out at any time, and the Stamper can get to anywhere it wants to be. The Wiper can also get anywhere it wants to be. And the hammer, if it's thrown correctly, which it's a Rashi on that hammer, it could be, it can get a headshot on that crab and manage to take it out.
So we talked about the quick response strategy here for Last Resort. How does that come into play in Clan Blitz here, Nine? Do you see that playing a role at all?
Yeah, more on the offensive side than the defensive side here. This is going to allow Arashi to jump back in, throw some clams, and then go and opt to attack. And even if nobody is taken down in that exchange, be able to come back through, keep the pressure on, keep the survivability, and keep people firing in the opposite direction of wherever your friends are throwing clams in.
Here we go, game 2. Last Resort picked up the surprising dub, and by surprising, it's nothing against Last Resort. It's just Sayonara is one of those teams here in North America. Let's see if Last Resort can keep the momentum going as we get set here. And Nox, I'll kick it to you for the loadouts. Anything stand out to you?
We are seeing pretty much the exact same comps as last time. As the double splashes are coming out, not a surprise there. Seeing .Q stay on the splatter scope for this map makes a lot of sense with all the linear narrow pathways. And of course that double Splatana coming out again from Last Resort, taking advantage of that high mobility and that high object damage to crabs.
Sayonara taking care of 3 members of Last Resort. That's going to leave 1 Splatana on the back line, and now they have a power clam, so here's an opportunity for Sayonara to strike, but they get hunted down by the Wiper, and that is quickly cleared away.
Yeah, excellently done there. I think Chara moved forward there, understanding that, well, I'm the only one left. I have to make a play here to slow it down, and even if I get a trade, that's something. Maybe even gifted a second off that spot. Sun had snowballed basically a triple to give themselves mid, but instead, again, both teams understanding the plays that need to be made and when they need to be made.
A trade right there. Neither team has been able to threaten the basket yet, and we're almost 90 seconds into this, and so it's been a bit of a slower developing match between Last Resort and Sayonara, but Last Resort, power clam, retreating just a little bit, trying to find that opportunity. Fizzy bomb to the left, blocking the way. Another crab special ready to roll, and you figure you'll see that out here in just a second. So Nox, now how do you advance forward when you look at 3 specials on the other side for Sayonara?
Well, one of the things you can do is use that Splatana Stamper and take advantage of that Zipcaster, which we just saw Chara doing an incredible job of. As I say that, though, Leafy does manage to take out that power clam using the crab tank and gets another. As that could have been a huge push for Last Resort with the picks Chara had managed to get, but now Sayonara is going to be able to reclaim mid here and just start moving forward, taking advantage of those specials that they had to use defensively.
Real defensive battle right now. Neither team has been able to score, and we have less than 3 minutes left, and it just feels like both sides dialed in here, Nine, and able to snuff out any potential push at any given moment. But now it's 4-2 on the map. Here's the chance for Last Resort.
Yeah, I'd be stunned if this isn't a pretty decent score there. They're going to open it up, and Arashi is there, and that is the player that you want on the front end because of the loops and the QR that we talked about earlier. It's still Arashi there, so they might be able to get a jump in, and they did indeed get Chara jumping on the other side. It doesn't appear that they've noticed as Chara runs forward, is able to get one, and does go down. Q with a very well-placed bomb is finally going to put this push to bed. All the way to 56, though, after a long and extended fight over the middle of the map. Not a bad push to get.
It took nearly 3 minutes to get our first successful basket toss here in Clam Blitz, and so now we'll see if Sayonara can score quickly, because this has been a slow developing match. That ink back going to clear some room, of course, and here is Sun moving around the left. They're trying to get a power clam good to go. You've got a Crab as your offensive line clearing the way. That'll buy you time in the pocket. However, a wipeout by Last Resort, and Knox, that is huge, because that was a golden opportunity for Sayonara.
Yeah, that could have been an incredible push for Sayonara. Instead, they just get that one power clam in, which gives Last Resort that pity without getting a ton of benefit for themselves. And they are just stuck by their basket in this very scattered state where they just don't have the control they need. They have managed to get back to mid. They've secured their basket. But that was a few more points to Last Resort. And they didn't manage to save their other pity clam, so it's just one pity clam right now.
And you saw Last Resort quickly respond by at least eliminating that penalty. So a penalty of 11, meaning, of course, they'll get some points if they get that power clam in the basket one more time. But under a minute left here in 9, if you're Sayonara, you got to start moving quick here. You got to get to the 2-minute offense.
You do, and I would say more than that, you have to be very, very careful about where you're putting your specials here. We have seen a couple times them get the specials set up in the right spot, but this team comp is made to play around the meta specials. They've done it, and they've taken the lead. How's that for a 2-minute offense? Immediately pushing forward, and they've got their points and are moving back. I love it. Q moving back with Leafy waiting, understanding that somebody was surely going to chase that wayward charger, getting a nice punishment here. Gets another for good measure as they stabilize mid with under 30 left.
And Knox, I want to go back to Isa getting that one-on-one while you had the power clam. You clearly give up your positioning. You take down a Splatana one-on-one and charge your way to the basket. Play of the match so far. Let's see if Last Resort can come back. They've got 10 seconds to work with. What can they do here, Knox?
They're going to want to make sure that they have that Splatana Stamper able to get in behind those backlines, distract that charger, make sure that that vacuum can't slow them down. But it looks like Arashi's going to try and use that hammer to get in, and that's just not going to quite work out for them. Hammer's such a fragile special that it's not something that you can rely on. Chara also going down. That is a 2-down situation as they're trying to just keep this power clam alive, trying to move forward, and just not able to, as Sayonara applies so much paint pressure to mid here. And while Arashi stayed up for a while, there was no power clam to jump into him.
Sayonara, unbelievable play once again down the stretch there, 9. That was something that you look at one-on-one situations and the impact they can have on a game, and that completely changed everything. You go down with the power clam right there. Last Resort probably hangs on and takes a 2-0 lead, being one game away from eliminating you. Now, because of that 1 10-second sequence, it's tied up 1-1, and you have all the momentum.
All the momentum, and I want to give credit to how they played that defense as well, because for those of you trying to do the math at home, 2 power clams would have gotten Last Resort the lead, and that suddenly opens up the old 2018-2019 strategy of simply jumping somebody to it. Trading everything for those 2 power clams going in would get you the win. So what does Sayonara do? They move up and attack. Sun was waiting patiently in one small dollop of ink, took out one of the clam carriers, moves back over on the other side, throws a wrench in the entire operation, and again, the recognition in that moment. That's why Sayonara is in these situations so many times.
So a new lease on things, it feels like, for Sayonara. You avoid falling into a 2-0 hole here, Knox, and now if you're Last Resort, what's the conversation like? Because you just came so close to taking a commanding lead, and now you're back to square one. It essentially becomes a best-of-3 moving forward.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to just making sure that they keep a positive mental state going, because after a loss like that, it's so easy to just go, everything's going wrong, and start panicking rather than just trying to keep it together. And while I'm sure that's less common at this high level of play, it's definitely still a factor. You still feel that pressure, especially the closer and closer the matches get. It's way easier to just get too in your head and completely freeze up. So I think a lot of it is just them remembering to take the time to breathe and remember that they don't need to rush immediately into fights, which they've been very solid at so far throughout all the sets we've seen.
Yeah, it really does feel like they've slowed down just a tick here, 9, and you see a little bit more coordination going on, and especially the Splatanas playing in ways that really allows their weapon to stand out amongst the weapon classes. Moving forward, you still, of course, have got a couple more game modes and maps that we haven't seen yet. So the changes for Last Resort, is there anything you're thinking about doing differently here as we get set for Splat Zones at Brinewater?
Well, this is the map where they really changed their composition the most. We saw Chara bring out the custom Splattershot Jr., which we said before was the omnipresent Wave Breaker and Torpedo combination with a weapon that can turf with the best of them makes it that much more difficult to take the zone. So will we see that now, or are they simply feeling as though the Stamper is going to give them the best opportunity? We'll certainly have to see. But I think that the way that they have attacked the different formations that they have been faced with, and certainly Sayonara is to a T the meta in terms of where they will place their crab tanks and how they'll move forward in attack. I think that, to Nox's point, sometimes you can move a little bit too quickly. You have to remember that everything they're doing is predicated on where those crabs are going, but if you get there before the crab's just not going to pop. They're just going to go with their incredibly mobile main weapon, and I think that that's what we've seen thus far as these two teams continue to adapt.
Splat zones, Brine Water Springs notched up at 1 apiece. Who's going to move one game closer to advancing in losers semis here? We'll see. Sayonara, last resort. Both these matches have been incredibly close the last 2 games, so we'll see what happens. Moving towards the map, and there we have it. We see the change, Nox, that Splattershot Jr. coming out on the side of last resort.
Yeah, Splattershot Jr. just such a great pick for a map like this, with the torpedoes able to apply so much pressure to things like that E-liter and that machine without needing to take a ton of risks, and Wavebreaker able to force crabs to have to take a little bit of time to not be shooting with them and having to rely more on that mobility that crab is not so great at.
Sayonara claiming the zone very quickly here, and now all of a sudden it's going to be last resort trying to wrestle it away from them, but 9, a pretty solid start as the crab continues to patrol the middle of that zone.
Patrolling the middle of the zone, and the other change, of course, we need to note is it is going to be the E-liter once again coming out from Q, so that means that no one's going to be able to safely come down on that far right flank to go up and pester that spot, which generally means you have that side to go, and you can see Leafy right there. They're going to throw some subs back at the zone. Just a little bit more turf there. Let's tick off a couple more points. Eventually, we're going to get our crab, and this is an entirely new Sayonara thus far. They have been dominant.
Yeah, dominating this one indeed, trying to say sayonara to game 3, between last resort, and now it's just a matter, can last resort break through? And no, down goes the crab. That's never a good sign, and it feels like sayonara is just going to roll to a dominating game 3 win. And just like that, after being down potentially 2-0, they're now up 2-1, and for sayonara, that's got to be, not that you need more confidence here, Nox, but that's got to have you feeling really good as you get set for game 4.
Yeah, that's gotta feel incredible for Sayonara. Just a really easy 100-0 victory, not too much fighting you need to do, able to get all the picks you needed, everything going to plan. And just, that must also be a very hard blow to Last Resort, who had a win in a previously close game, to just suddenly have the script flipped on them like that, especially on a map they got to choose.
Yeah, 9, it's one of those situations where the jersey didn't even get dirt on it in that one as they pick up the win. And so now you feel like if you're Last Resort, at this point, you've got to go to, well, your Last Resort, and I imagine you go back to those double Splatanas as we get set for, I believe it's going to be Rainmaker coming up next, or no, Tower Control, and Flounder Heights here. So, again, you've got some opportunities to move around with those Splatanas as you jump around, but anything that you see from Last Resort on Flounder Heights and Tower Control that can give them the edge here.
Yeah, it'll be an intriguing look, because one thing that I do believe the comp that they just played lost, and we'll see if they've kind of realized this, or if they were so stuck in what they wanted to play there that it didn't matter, is I think the lack of extra burst bombs that were coming out of that Splatana Stamper and those type of hitboxes are why those fights ended so quickly, because all that extra chip damage and just forcing people back, forcing them to run away because they know that any last hit will take them down, I think really does change the dynamic of the game. And listen, you're going to Flounder Heights here. If there was ever a map to bring your burst bombs out for and your Zipcaster out for, this would be it. I know it's Tower Control, but I think this is a real opportunity for them to strike back on something that does befit them. We might see the Tenatech come out as well from Storm Hero. I think all the options are on the table for them here. They just need to, as Nox said, believe in themselves and remember that they've taken games from these teams before, and they can certainly do it again.
Flipping things to the other side for Sayonara, Nox, what stood out about that last game? How do they replicate that as we get set for a little Tower Control?
It definitely seemed like they were moving more quickly, more efficiently. They were making sure that they were taking fights where the Charger always had line of sight with them, letting them always just be able to have that backup. I imagine they're going to keep doing a lot of pairing up here, especially with the double-double comp, as 9 called it earlier.
And 9, I see a brush. Who do you think brought out a brush to this one?
Well, the only player who would do it, that is Brochara bringing it out here, and we did see it on this map earlier, so certainly a comfort pick as 2 members already going down. The brush went down in the process. The double-double known for its stability and slaying potential, so very couple points going on here, a little punishment coming here. Both sides opting not to give up mid as quickly as they can as Chara dives in, gets 2, a third went down, and Sun might opt to just jump back out. There's nothing left for them to do on this side, and what a way to use that quick respawn and stealth jump to dive back in, and that's the reason that you bring this main weapon to the fight.
So now Last Resort picking up the first checkpoint as that hammer comes in, and Stamp just takes care of business right there. We talked about it. The aim on that can be pretty impressive here, Nox, but what we're seeing from Last Resort, it just seems like it is full pedal to the metal. We are going to be as aggressive as possible here, Nox, and they are trying to keep Sayonara backpedaling this entire first half of the game.
Yeah, and Last Resort's comp is so good at that. They just will be able to continuously get those jumps in as long as the T-Tech or Splash stays up. If either of those weapons is up, they will just be able to keep it going, keep it moving. And that triple strike and that crab enable both of those weapons to clear space for the Octobrush to start going in with moves like that. And for the Wiper to just cause so much havoc as they're now both just kind of seeing if they can get this checkpoint, and they managed to.
Last Resort able to get by the final checkpoint, but you get the feeling here, Nine, this is not a knockout game here. It's going to be who's got the best score at the end, and now it's Sayonara's chance. You took that opening haymaker from Last Resort, but now it feels like they're pretty organized and starting to get into the positions they want to get into, Nine.
Well, they better, and they have to remember that Last Resort's entire comp is built around saying, okay, get into your position, we'll break it once you get there. So they can't even rest happy once they get into that spot. They need what would be essentially a full Wiper 3-down situation to get extended. They have to watch that wall there. There's going to be Pandemonium going through here with this trip strike. It's going to give Chara the opportunity to move up as Storm Hero moves up as well. Arashi went down, but it's the follow-up that's going to matter.
You have a Booyah Bomb about to go out from Leafy. It is now 4-2 on the map, advantage Last Resort. They're trying to hold things down. However, Sayonara does get through that first checkpoint, which, as you said before, Nox, that first checkpoint can sometimes be the most difficult one to clear.
Yeah, especially with how much of it can just be a skirmish moment in mid as you're getting into this game. But we are seeing Sayonara just trying to find the space they want to work with and starting to be able to as they manage to get that Octobrush down, getting rid of a lot of paint for Last Resort. As we are seeing Leafy popping this Booyah Bomb and able to just clear the space ahead of them as the triple strike comes out, trying to slow down that tower. And Sayonara should be able to just start stabilizing a bit here, start being able to really get this tower moving forward, especially with that Booyah Bomb and Crab at the ready.
Second checkpoint for Sayonara. They've got 3 specials dialed up here, Nine. This feels like your moment. If you're going to try and make this a game, you got to capitalize here.
You do, and this is where the bombs are going to start to come in. Q needs to be careful there. Does get into the ball, but gets bounced way away as that checkpoint goes through. Those could be precious seconds there, and it will be. They go and dive at the tower. Sun, who has had the tournament of his life thus far, stayed in Crab long enough. 2-1, they lose the lead. Leafy comes in for the punishment and is going to back up ever so slightly to try to get maybe 1 or 2 who dive too far. But unbelievable individual play there from Sun to keep the Crab firing at the right direction and survive just long enough.
Just too much Crab down the stretch. Sayonara taking a 1-point lead. Last Resort, they've got just a little bit over a minute to try and respond. They've got their own Crab out. Feels like they've got the cavalry coming. They're pushing forward. Specials and Stamps and Ink going left and right. Here's Arashi trying to continue to apply that pressure with that throw. Flank from up above. Triple Ink Strike trying to help out. Here's a chance. Last Resort with the push. Last Resort takes the lead, and now it is back to Sayonara to try and come back. Unbelievable, Nox. Last Resort able to orchestrate that with such little time left.
Yeah, Last Resort doing an incredible job of just knowing what their weapons are good at and managing to get Sayonara in a 2-down situation and just capitalizing fully on that, knowing that even if they go down, they will respawn faster. I will say that Sayonara did a great job of just getting back into mid there and kind of ignoring Arashi's flank for a second because it wasn't that relevant to what they were trying to do. As we're seeing the Crabs coming out, just trying to force this forward, looking for what they can do, painting over that ink rail, making sure Arashi can't just take that and flank over them, and same for Chara because both of those weapons are so good with that height advantage.
Here comes Sayonara. They have a chance to take the lead. Sayonara, they'll take it back. 9 with 2 seconds left. Sayonara does enough down the stretch, and an unbelievable back and forth battle goes down to the wire, and Sayonara will pick up game number 3 and push past Last Resort. Wow. Wow, wow, wow down the stretch there, 9.
I mean, just a round of applause for these players. And I mean, it's not uncommon to see back and forth in tower control, right? It's not often that you see the lead be exchanged in the teens 3 times in 1.5 minutes. That's not usually how this plays, but I mean, again, so many individual moments that we could talk about there that made those plays happen, both from both sides as both of them made their pushes. But there is, again, something to be said for the sustainability and fighting prowess of the double-double comp, double slosh, double splash, and you see exactly why Sayonara has stuck with it ever since they figured out its prowess.
All right, let's check out the updated bracket. Sayonara, last-second victory gives them the win in loser semis. Congratulations to Last Resort. They really put together some battles here. They'll go home with those first prizes that we've mentioned earlier. But now, Ascension Sayonara, winner, will also get that final spot on the trip to Boston. We'll step aside and see who will qualify when we come back. It'll be the final match, the final round here in the Splatoon 3 Splatsville Showdown event number 2. Do not miss it. We'll be right back.
The Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass DLC. Start your engines for 8 courses in Wave 3. Maple Treeway. Rainbow Road. Boo Lake. Berlin Byways. Rock Mountain. Peach Gardens. London Loop. And Merry Mountain. The Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass. 8 courses at a time will release over 6 waves as paid DLC for the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe game. That's 48 courses, zooming in by the end of 2023. Wave 3 launches December 7th on the Nintendo Switch system. Race on these courses at no additional cost with a paid Nintendo Switch Online Plus Expansion Pack membership. Or purchase the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass DLC on its own.
And for one last time, welcome back to the Splatoon 3 Splatsville Showdown event number 2. Jordan Kent, 9, and Nox bringing you our final matchup of the day. It'll be losers finals as we take a look at the bracket here. And what's been fascinating about this tournament is that one of the favorites, one of the top teams in North America, Sayonara, fell to Crush Soda 3-2 in winter semis. They just took care of business, Sayonara did, over Last Resort in loser semis. Now they take on Ascension, and Ascension fell to Crush Soda 3-0. And so as we get set here, Nox, look at these two teams, Ascension and Sayonara. What stands out to you between these two as they face off?
One thing about these two teams that really stands out to me is that Ascension gets so close so often to beating these Sayonara level teams. Last Splatsville Showdown, we saw them almost beat Starburst and just not quite manage it. So it is definitely something that they are capable of. They just need to keep their heads about them. Whereas Sayonara, I believe Nine mentioned this earlier at some point, that they are kind of just the expected team. It's like when FT Win used to enter these, where you just go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. They should probably take this since Starburst isn't here. That's kind of the vibe that we've been getting off of Sayonara. They are one of the best North American teams, but Ascension's definitely closing in on them.
And what's interesting as well, too, here, Nine, is that we're getting set for Splat Zones and Flounder Heights. Let's peek at the rules one last time for the day here. You know who's going to choose the mode, who's going to choose the stage. Losing team will choose the stage after the first game. Winning team will choose the mode. You're familiar with those 4 modes and, of course, our map list. And we'll start on the top left map, Flounder Heights, Splat Zones. And it's interesting because you have those dual Splat Zones. And we've seen before teams have done an excellent job of just being able to push the other team away from that second zone you have to try and get, and you can get a quick knockout, essentially. What do you anticipate seeing from these loadouts in Flounder Heights when there's so many different ways to approach these zones?
Yeah, really, this is going to be, I think, Ascension's problem, if you will, to figure out, because we certainly know what Sayonara is going to be bringing to the table, and to Ascension's credit, they also know what Sayonara is going to be bringing to the table. It's not going to be all that different than what they ran into against Crush Soda, so they're certainly familiar with these double-double comps, as pretty much everyone has to be somewhat familiar with them here. But the real question at this point, I would say, for them is how will they break back out? Because we saw they had a very, very difficult time doing that the last time we saw this map mode combination. I think part of that was they got a little frantic, but because they don't have as many burst bombs, it's a little trickier for them to work their way back through. They have to fight it out instead, and that is a very difficult task to do multiple times. They would love to take it very quickly early on, move up onto the opponent's ramp, and fight it out from there as the points tick down.
Yeah, it really seems like this is a particular map here, Nox. You want to get that zone first because the height advantage you have to push from that point on, and because of the dual maps, is going to give you a huge upper hand as you try to close things out.
Yeah, definitely. Especially since Ascension's comp does rely so much on just having that forward pressure. They don't want to be holding back at all. They don't really want to take the time to build many specials. They just want the Flingza doing that. They want to be forward. They want to be on top of things. And they want this Splash to be able to set up and take out this E-leader as quickly as they can, it seems like.
You've got Sayonara in the yellow, Ascension in the purple, and already a little bit of a change in the loadouts here, and the early lead to Sayonara as they're able to get a couple of points, Nine.
Yeah, this is a really intriguing look here. Q going with this weapon means that she's probably going to opt to stay, if you can imagine a heat map, in the 2 spots that she has been right now, just over the grate, and then on her own back area on that grate too, to fire over at people as they jump here. But again, if you understand that it can move away on the other side, that's a spot where you can very quickly get attacked from. Fortunately for Q, Leafy has spawned in at just the right time, is able to get a double for the trouble there, and right now, it is all Sayonara as they finally start ticking down the timer.
Yeah, you saw it right there on your screen. Sayonara pushing forward, able to claim that second zone. Let's see if they can keep Ascension at bay, because already, Nox, we've seen twice now Ascension quickly gobbling up that zone and making things a stalemate.
Yeah, Ascension's very good at getting back into their zone right now. They've been doing an excellent job of it. They've been using their specials really well, and we see that they didn't even need to use their specials to get into that next zone. So now they have them ready to maintain this push and just keep Sayonara out, which is really what Ascension's comp is going to be strong at. They don't do well with this comp and these weapons to build into mid, but once they're there, it's so good at locking it down.
And to your point, Nox, that's exactly what they're doing. They got the quick wipeout, and now they take the lead here, and again they regain the zone. And 9, this is where Ascension wants to be. It's going to be on Sayonara to somehow find their footing to make sure they can try and push Ascension back again.
It's not going to be so easy. That's a great shot to make it. It is an incredible shot there. I don't even know how Q was able to see that, but that means that if they want to, they might be able to sneak somebody around on the bottom of the screen. I think the window may have closed for them to do that. They took a little too long to get it going. You saw that Ascension opted to try to dive and attack there, and the combination of the specials and too much burst bomb damage was able to slow that down. It's a great job there from Sayonara. They gave up a lot of points, but they could have given up an awful lot more.
So Sayonara's got both zones now, and this is the longest they've held both zones, it feels like, because now Ascension trying to scramble back into positioning. You see 2 of them trying to work their way behind that billboard to the left. You got a potential crab to the right, and now you've got a member of Ascension sneaking in, trying to cover a little bit more of that first zone. Missiles coming in, Sayonara losing control, but quickly Nox regaining control, and now here's this push from Sayonara we're anticipating.
Yeah, Sayonara just doing a great job here of knowing how to get back into mid and just completely claiming it once they're there, taking advantage of those triple strikes out of that T-Tech. And Evan and Sayonara just doing such an incredible job of just keeping this pressure up, managing to get lead. And Q just doing a great job of applying so much universal map pressure to just keep them from getting back in.
So Sayonara, both zones, the clock is ticking down in 9. They've really done an excellent job of regaining mid here. What have they done to be able to just capture complete control of this game, as it feels like they're about a few seconds away from victory?
Well, Nox laid it out. The stabilizing presence of Q means that you can't haphazardly simply run over once you take 2 or 3 people out, because you might trade one out in that spot. And Leafy has continually jumped to Q and is now getting accosted by every special on the map, so can't really survive that. But that's where the pivot point has been for them thus far. Twig moves in to try to make the hero play, and Q got the clean up there, but it could have been a lot of people. So again, it seems like they are just a little bit too early running in to try to get a knockout punch against Sayonara, and Sayonara's not letting them have anything for free.
And I'll call myself out. I might have called it a little too soon here, because all of a sudden Ascension battling back, and you see the ginormous penalty for Sayonara if they want to make up any of their points. Now it's just a matter of, can they hold things down until the game clock goes down at this point? They've got both zones in control. They get a wipeout, and Nox, that'll really help the cause.
Yeah, it definitely helped a lot there. And Q hitting just incredible shots this game. We've seen quite a few of them now. Q seems to be really on fire this tournament, as we're just seeing Sayonara knowing that they don't need to drop down, they don't need to take any huge risks, they can just build up their specials, wait it out, they can probably give up the zone for a second if they need to, and then get back in. They know what they have right now. They know that they have this lead, and they know they don't need to risk anything too much. And Q hitting yet another great shot.
Oh, the inkjet gets grounded, and Q has got control. Q tells you where you can go on this map, not the other way around. And it's going to be Sayonara now officially a few seconds away. And just for good measure, they get the knockout. So credit Sayonara after taking a couple of initial punches here from Ascension 9. It sounds like they really got their footing in mid. And once Q got comfortable, it made life very, very difficult for Ascension.
Absolutely, and we said earlier it was with Crush Soda and the position that Kyo went to very early on. I know that Kyo's Slashing Machine and Q's E-Liter could really not be any more different of weapons if they tried, but there's a fundamental aspect of having 1 or 2 power positions that you can very quickly go to. That when your teammates jump to you, they know what they will be landing into and where they can move from there. At that point, eventually the Charger is going to hit their shots, but the positioning so much more than just hitting shots, and it's why Q has continued to pilot this type of weapon all throughout Splatoon 2 and Splatoon 3's history.
And really, when you've got a backliner and an E-Leader that talented, it just changes the complete complexion of the game, as Nine said here, Nox. And so the counterplay to that, the question for Ascension is, how do you deal with that? Is there anything that they might have, any solution to maybe putting a little bit more pressure or making that E-Leader feel uncomfortable?
I'd imagine a lot of it for them is just going to be making sure that they keep their specials focused on that E-Leader. Because if the E-Leader is having to move around from that killer whale, or dodge crab shots, or keep away from missiles, that's going to be what they need to... They can't hit a shot, they can't hold those positions that people want to jump to. I will say that the Inkjet does just get taken out by the E-Leader most of the time, especially now in a game without Ink Armor. There's not a lot of defense from Chargers in that way. But definitely it's going to be a lot of focusing specials, keeping paint up so that there isn't free movement from the players that do jump in.
And so now it feels like Sayonara has kind of found their rhythm here, 9, and we know that they can apply a lot of different types of pressure here. And as we get to Tower Control, Inkblot Art Academy, which you say is one of the most popular game modes ever played, does anything change, or do you just continue to keep Q on that E leader and just really cover the entire map?
Yeah, it's a great question. The last time we saw this, they did go with Q over on the Splash-O-Matic, so not either of the chargers opting to go with that instead, a stabilizing force of being able to put one crab on tower as the other one moves up to a more aggressive position to bully people as they try to come out of spawn. You move up your machines alongside that as well. So the formula has been written, and we've seen how both of these teams will want to play it when it happens. On the other side, we know that Twig is going to be sitting by the boxes there, waiting for people to either go up there to try to jump off, to get super jumps in, to try to work around it. That's where it's going to be living. So again, both teams know the game plan for this. It's nothing new. It's going to be execution and in-the-moment recognition that makes the difference here.
Yeah, it really is. And you try to find those opportunities when you can time up that push here, Nox, with having your specials get going. I mean, that's been the foundation and one of the fundamental things for these elite teams. But it really feels like for Sayonara, once they can get Q comfortable, that feels like it allows their frontliners to play that much more aggressive. And now it puts the pressure on Ascension, because Ascension's not only just thinking about these one-on-ones or these 2v1s, but you've got this E-leader staring down over you. So it will be interesting, I imagine, Nox, to see what loadout we're going to see here from Sayonara.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely going to be, to some degree, having a charger set up like that is kind of like having QR in its own way. You can freely jump into them when you're running stealth jump. It gives you just a free way back in. You don't have to wait as long. You don't have to swim in. And that against a team like Ascension, where they don't have a freeway in like that, they don't have that stabilizing pressure. They can often jump into their Flingza, but their Flingza can't apply the same pressure from a distance that an E-leader can. The Flingza does act as the anchor of Ascension's team, but they can't do the same job that an E-leader can by any means.
Well, let's see what .Q rolls with here. And no surprises, 9. You see that E-leader just right there front and center. And so I guess my question to you, 9, is how do teams effectively, after that second checkpoint, make sure they can continue to live in the other team's spawn, because there's just so much pressure you can face as you're trying to get those critical points to maybe take the lead or build upon yours?
Yeah, the big deal is you simply have to have the right specials and have the right areas to move around. And 2 already going down, Leafy trying to make the case. But I think that's really what it comes down to in a broad sense, is you can move into the right position, but at a certain point you are going to need either team support or a special if you want long sustained pushes.
A lot of impressive splats going back and forth so far, but no team has really hopped on the tower for more than just a couple of points, as Ascension is the first team on the map. But now you see a couple of members. Evan, how about the pick on .Q, Nox?
Yeah, getting that pick on .Q is absolutely huge. Allows them to hold way more space in mid without needing to worry about it as much. Because if you're not needing to worry about a charger hitting you from any particular angle, you just get to go around mid a lot more freely. And now they have respawn, but now they should just be able to get this tower moving forward, distracting this E-leader, as Twig should be able to move back up and under them pretty easily as they have that wall.
Yeah, I should say it's Sayonara, Nox, that we are continuing to talk about here. So as we get Ascension, they continue to push towards the second checkpoint here. And now this is what we talked about here, 9. What type of positioning are they looking for here, as you see Evan, Twig, and Swin all trying to apply some pressure with that crab coming out for Sayonara?
Yeah, Twig is in the exact spot that you would want your 52 gal to be, but as they put so much pressure here on the left side of the map, it makes it that much easier for them to get a crab or Q set up in a distant position, as the fall off of all fall off there to take out Twig. Goodness gracious, Leafy. But we said that's why it's so difficult to get the sustained pushes. Should be noted though, Ascension is probably okay going down in the way they did, because they got through the second checkpoint, and every push will be that much more enticing.
Sayonara finally able to move the tower just a little bit, but Ascension still in full control with under 3 minutes left here. Here's Twig trying to ride that ink rail for a little bit more positioning. Killer Whale 5.1 coming out. We continue to talk about Twig here. With that 52 gal, Nox, the importance of them able to bust through those opening lines as a frontliner really seems like it's going to be key to Ascension.
Yeah, it definitely makes a huge difference for them to just be able to get in, to have that splash wall and have that distraction so that they can freely move their splash into the position, their machine in this case, into the position they want to use Booyah from, get the Inkjet into where they want, and have those missiles so that the Try and the 52 Gao can move forward in the way they want. As we see Ascension just doing what they can to try and maintain this lead right now.
First checkpoint down for Sayonara. This is what we see from them, 9. They kind of take their hits early on, and then all it takes is one collective push, and there's the wipeout. That's what they're looking for. Now they've got to be able to camp in this spawn and hold their ground, and already you see all 4 members doing an excellent job of spacing, and they've taken the lead here, 9.
Yeah, it's going to be the lead and potentially a whole lot more. Issa going ahead and getting punishing there. Swen, I'm sorry, that Flings a Roller's not going to do a lot as a main weapon. Some Hail Mary missiles coming out here to try to break this attack as they move through, but there's simply too many specials, too much execution. Twig is going to try to dive and make the play. It's just Twig at this point, and not even Twig will be able to win that fight. Shinex is going to continue to try to make it happen. Just a couple more ticks, and Sayonara, once again, a knockout victory.
So Sayonara, back-to-back knockouts, has really put the pressure on Ascension, and this is what we've been seeing here, Nox, is Sayonara, they're just going to take their time. They're not going to try and force the issue early on. They'll let you maybe get some points towards the objective, but you better be ready for the middle of this game because eventually they're going to find that right moment to pounce, and when they do, they've been making it count with these particular pushes that just seem to overwhelm the opposition.
Yeah, Sayonara knows exactly where they want to be and exactly where they need to be, and especially against a team like Ascension, where it's not like Last Resort, who was playing specifically to counter what they were doing. Ascension's just playing what they like to play, whereas with Sayonara, there's just so much pressure that they can apply from any particular point on the map. They know exactly what they want, and they have that charger that is consistently hitting their shots, and also can switch off to machine or splash if needed, which is pretty useful, generally.
And obviously you've got that charger in the back, but it felt like for Sayonara in this past game here, 9, their frontliners did an excellent job. I mean, we really didn't call out Twig's name too much. Twig seemed to be a little bit neutralized in this one by Sayonara because you were just so effective of once you had the tower, your 3 other teammates able to move forward and plow some open runway for you. That was huge for Sayonara.
It really was. And look, whenever Q is staying, especially in this current meta, on E-Leader this long, you know the team is feeling something good. And when one player starts to feel it, everyone else does. This is some of the finest execution that I have seen. Sun, their ace splash, and someone who has kind of defined what a support shooter looks like, is no longer sitting back and waiting for grab, going in, making fights, taking these confident bits. We certainly know and have seen on the biggest stages that Leafy will fight it out with anybody, and Issa, the stabilizing force on that machine as well, backing up, hitting people who dive too far. They truly are firing on all cylinders right now, and everyone is executing to the best of their ability.
All right, Nox, we've got Clam Blitz on Eel Tail Alley coming up here, and so obviously this was the choice here by Ascension. So what do you think's going through their mind as far as where they can possibly get an advantage here?
I think they know that with that splash wall, Q gets a little bit more neutralized on a map this narrow and linear because they do get to hide behind it as Q takes the shot. And also, we know that Twig can move around so much on this map using those splash walls, just can hold down pretty much whatever space they want. They don't really need to be too fussy about it. There's so many walls for them to play around. Shinex can go around so many corners, taking advantage of that Tri-Slosher, and Inkjet's pretty solid on this map due to all the height differences throughout it. And of course, they're going to have that Flingza, using those missiles, just forcing people out of position so that their players can get in more easily.
All right, and then looking at Sayonara here, 9, you're picking Clam Blitz for a reason. Why are you deciding to go with that?
Well, you know that if you're going to Eel Tail Alley, let's just go to a variation of Eel Tail Alley where you've continually won over and over here. It's Clam Blitz. They have the game figured out, certainly on this, and certainly Q switching over to the Splat Charger shows you exactly why that is. It's sustainability, it's pressure, it's a faster bomb, and they are so close to punching that coveted ticket.
.Q has been the backbone of this Sayonara effort. They lead 2-0. Ascension trying to pick up a game and just trying to get some momentum here. Evan in the crab going pincher to pincher with the other crab, finally dropping down below, throwing that burst bomb, but that's going to be an effort that is futile as Evan continues to move forward. But now it is 4-2. Ascension on the map, and they're going to try and get the first strike on the basket here momentarily. And just like that, Nox, Ascension racking it up to nearly 50 points.
Yeah, Ascension did a really great job there of making sure they actually had the power claims to get a push to have something more than just a singular power claim. And it's not uncommon for teams to get a few down in situations like that, overextend, and then go, oh no, we didn't remember to make a power. We didn't remember to pick up clams. And they just did such a great job of making sure that they had them. As I say that, though, Sayonara is now able to move up so much due to that full wipeout, and they're quickly scoring these points now.
And that's 2 power clams right there and a couple of more regular clams. And now Sayonara, they just need to pick up a couple extra clams. You see 10 in their possession. They finally get to the basket, and they're looking for a potential knockout here. It's just a matter of finding more currency on the field, and it doesn't seem like there's enough, but you've got 4 more coming here on the left. Can they push forward? Here's the crab tank. Could it be an early knockout? A first push knockout, a wipeout, a victory, a 3-0 sweep, and a trip to Boston 9. It all happened in a matter of seconds.
I mean, you could feel I don't even know if anger is the right word, but Sayonara was done with these close sets. They were done with the scares against these teams. They said, we have only lost in this tournament to Starburst and to Crush Soda, which is, a Kyo squad there. We're done with this. Get out of our way and give us our ticket. And so many incredible plays there at the very end to keep that push going. Q's Inkvac making everybody survive as they dove in to score. A crab being placed at the right time so that the remaining members could go back and get more clams to continue the scoring. But bravo and a round of applause to Sayonara, showing you why they are a perennial competitor at the top level of North American Splatoon and a well-earned ticket.
Yeah, well said, my friend. Let's go ahead and check out the bracket for one last time. And here are your 2 teams moving on to Boston. Crush Soda and Sayonara, the 2 teams that took it to 5 games and winners semis. So congratulations. And also, shout-outs to Ascension and Last Resort for a lot of fun this afternoon and evening, but this was just absolutely terrific. And so, as we get set to close here, Nox, what stands out to you about the current state? Because coming into this event, there was so much chatter about just how so many teams could potentially grab these 2 spots, and it feels like, yes, you've got some of that top-tier talent that's still very difficult to get over, but it just feels like everybody else has gotten so much better. Things have risen to the top, and you never know who's going to walk away with the win here potentially.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of new blood that's definitely working on that top player status, really getting close to being able to upset these teams that we've just seen be at the top for years now. And I can't wait to see where they end up going with it next.
And so, 9, any chance you can give us an early preview of these 4 teams that have made their way to Boston and your thoughts when and if these 4 teams get a chance to square off?
Yeah, this is the top shelf talent. For everything that we've said about the next generation and the new blood, it's all about the blue bloods. We've got Destiny Bomb, we've got a Kyo pickup, we've got Starburst, and we've got Sayonara. If you forced people to pick 4 teams, I think a lot of them would go with this as well. And with a metagame that has been so focused on just a few weapons, you're starting to see the individual skill and the individual team play come out and make the difference here. It's not on the weapon select screen, and I love what we have seen from these teams, and I can't wait to see what surprises they have in store for us when they duke it out for all the marbles.
All right, and Nox, one more thought on just what we saw today and how much fun it was seeing all these teams square off.
Yeah, just really incredible gameplay out of everybody. And congrats again to Sayonara for winning this. They did such an incredible job of just keeping that mentality good, even as they lost in a way they probably didn't expect to in Winners Round 1.
Yeah, we certainly got a show from everybody. Well, that'll do it for us. Thanks again to our wonderful production team, for 9 and Nox for absolutely doing a great job as always as the main Splatalists. And thank you again for tuning in. Don't forget, keep it checked into Nintendo Versus for all of your Nintendo competitive fun. What lies next for these 4 teams, you'll just have to wait and find out. But from all of us here, thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.